You're listening to the Gettin' Salty Experience podcast.
And away!
You have to be doing that on purpose.
He did.
That on purpose?
He did it on purpose. Everyone.
And away we go. Welcome back.
Guys, he's your friend. He's your friend.
The only show in the whole wide world that brings the Firehouse kitchen table right to you. The place where we solve all the world's problems: romance, divorce, finances, sports, politics. It's all done at the kitchen table, and we're bringing it to you for free. How do you like that, you cheap bastards? Free, we're bringing it to you. So Rookie's laughing because every time before the show, Pete yells at me, "Quiet! Everybody quiet! We'll go live in 3, 2."
This is what happens. We say, "Okay, everybody, we're going to go live." Petey's like, "All right, everybody quiet," because you have to, everybody's quiet. And in 3, 2, Kev's like he's, I don't know. There's no way
every time.
There's no way you could be doing that on purpose.
And here I am. Okay, guys, I'm going to count you in. Here we go. We're about to go live in 3. Ready? And here we go in 3, 2.
You know what the best is? When we're interviewing, in the pre-show, when we're talking to the guest beforehand, Pete has to mute Kevin's mic because the sounds that come out of that man. I don't understand what's going on. I don't know. Is that the trade?
And all I hear is Ruffy. All I hear is Ruffy chuckling as we're going live in 3, 2, 1. And I hear Louie laughing.
and then when we're trying to get across, a little information to our guest, it's like,
yeah, he's snorting.
Wait, what?
Everything.
Wait, what is it? What?
He does this too. He's like this. He's like,
oh, the phone's binging and going off. He sings. He gets up, goes to the can, comes back singing. God,
Pete has to mute him, and the best is Coobs. As soon as he sits down, what does he do? He unmutes himself, right?
Yeah,
He can't wait. He knows it's already been muted already, so he comes back and unmutes.
Oh my God!
All right, crybaby. A lot of crybabies in this room tonight. I gotta tell you.
Well,
crybabies in the room.
Let me just let them know how we pay these bills around here real quick because I want to get to our guest.
We got a good show. I got yelled at by Pete in the pre-show because I was asking our guest a whole bunch of questions already because he's fascinating to me.
No, it was already
fascinating career.
So I don't blame you. I don't blame you though. I don't blame you. I was just,
stuff.
It was really good. All right, but you guys already know the deal. Guys, GettinSaltyApparel.com, where you will find beautiful tumblers like this, or awesome t-shirts, hats, firefighter accessories, and apparel galore. Oh my God. I'm trying to do a read.
I can't pour. You guys pour drinks all the time.
It's for your company. I'm trying to do a read.
Go ahead. I'll be quiet. I'll mute myself. Go ahead. I'm going to mute myself.
I'm going to mute you. Mute everybody. This is. You see what I'm saying? This is what goes on every night. Anyway, so GettinSaltyApparel.com. That's GettinSaltyApparel.com, where you will find the firefighter apparel and accessories of a lifetime, like the Bronx Ben T-shirt right there, or maybe the hat that Mr. Refrano is wearing. Go there and support these two jack hats, okay? And also, guys, support us all by hitting us up in the super chats. You guys could, you guys are really the main sponsors of our show, and that's the fact right there. So if you like what you're seeing, send us a little cha-ching in the chat. And if you absolutely positively have to have a question answered, I'm going to add one little addendum. Try to make the question be pertaining to the conversation at hand. Okay, guys? So when you feel the need, ask. Because a lot of times, like an awesome guest like ours, will be on, and he's talking about like the moment he saved the baby and the baby started breathing again, and a super chat or a question in general come in and be like, ask him if he knew Bobby Richardson in ladder 176. Ask him, Pete. Ask him. We appreciate those questions too.
If he pays $100, I don't give a shit what he has.
I mean, I don't care either. It's a fact, Jack. I'm just saying.
If the guy's paying, read the question.
I always do. But anyway, granted, keep it on topic. All right. Super chats. Love you guys. Thank you. That's it. All right. My God.
Oh, he's back. Oh, he's on. He's off.
Hi.
I don't know.
Hi,
he's
Pete.
on.
Hey, what's up, Coach?
Good. Let's do our patriotic duty, Pete, please.
Okay. Stand by. This is an important part of the show to us, you guys, if you don't know. But here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great job. There you go. Best country in the history of the world. Thank you very much.
100%. Love it.
All right. We're not doing, we did Chief 360 on Monday, right?
We did.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We're good to go. We're good to bring our guest in. Now I can ask him all the questions I wrote, right, Pete?
Oh, I'm not complaining now. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You say whatever the hell you want.
Very interesting career. Great places he's been. Professional gentleman. Yeah, he's seen a fire or two, or 3 or 4, or 4 or 5,000. I don't know, maybe.
A year.
Yeah, let's bring him in. Lieutenant Mike Pena. Come on in.
Hey, there he goes.
Hey, guys.
Look at him. He looks good, too.
He looks great, man. Yeah.
Good looking. Nice background.
There you go.
Well lit.
Nice head of hair still. Yeah. Look at him.
Before you start, I've got one thing to say.
Yeah.
So I put a disclaimer out. You had 2 previous guests in your show, Bobby Gallione and Bobby Larocco.
Something like that.
I never heard of those guys. I don't know who they are.
Well, we saw a guy. We saw a guy going through your pictures that looked like a skinny type of Gallione, but he was it might have been before pizza. I don't know. We'll have to see.
We'll see.
Skinny Gallione? No good. Can't be good.
Yeah.
Be an angry guy then.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh man, I'm excited. I was telling him, man, great show. I'm excited about this show because there's history here. We were going through the pictures and we're looking at pictures of his father. So I don't even have to ask the redundant question, how did you get into the job? Because that was already answered. But I'm gonna ask you anyway. Lou, welcome to the show. So let's dive into your early days. Where were you born?
We want to do that, but we have one little
I always do that.
One little
for the drinkers. Yes, for the drinkers in the room, Pete.
Yeah. Not us, of course, because we're saints.
No, but this might be a little Absolute Citron and a little Ultra something. Maybe.
Easy now. Easy big fella. But ladies and gentlemen, the word of the day is Burrow of Fire.
Whoa.
Hey, Johnny C just hit you up with a C note right there, bro.
What?
Who's Johnny C? Did you see him?
Johnny Calderone.
Loot 7, number 1, and then come on. As they said in Goodfellas, here's a little something to get you started. Thanks for keeping us entertained every week. Great job, man.
Johnny C. Merry Christmas, bro. Johnny C. Thank you.
Wow. Holy mackerel. Thanks, bro.
That's awesome.
And also from Loot 7, thank you, buddy. We really appreciate you. Loot's one of the most consistent.
Yeah, Loot spreads the loot, bro. Show me the loot. Yeah. Give me the loot. Give me the loot. Loot.
All right, man. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
I'll ask you a question. But where you from? What area did you grow up in? Where you from originally? Tell us a little about your background.
Originally born up in the Bronx, in the West Lawn section, right near probably Ladder 58, near the Bronx Zoo there. Lived there for a couple of years, and eventually moved out to Suffolk County in Brentwood. And, grew up there for most of my life until we got married and started bouncing around a little bit.
Where you at now?
Now full-time down in Florida.
Oh, anywhere near the boys in the Del Boca Vista gang in Naples? Where are you at?
No, we're in the East Coast gang.
Where is that?
Melbourne Beach with Bobby Gallione and the crew.
Oh, you just gave a disclaimer. You never heard of that guy. Allegedly. Allegedly. Oh,
yeah, we got the East Coast Rescue 2 group on that side.
Oh, that's right. There's a whole bunch of guys from Rescue 2 over there. I'm headed down there myself. I got how many years? I was counting 6 or 7 years till my little guy's out of school, and then I'm southbound to Florida, my friend. So
there you go. You have to stop by.
All right, Tracy, you have to be a Yankee fan, probably, right? You grew up in the Bronx.
I grew up in the Bronx. Yankees, Rangers, Giants, and
always goes like that, right, Ruffy? Yankees and the Giants. Always the Yankees and the Giants. Yeah. All right,
and the Rangers too.
Yeah,
and then it's always some sad folks who are Mets, Jets, and Islanders fans. You know what I mean?
Hello, that's me. Yeah. All right. So your dad was a fireman. We saw that in some of the pictures, right? That's what got you involved in the fire service.
Yeah. Originally I had no interest in being a fireman. I was looking forward to being a state trooper in New York, going upstate.
Oh, really?
So I took the test for that. Did pretty well, and one thing happened after another, and I was going to go upstate, just hang out, and they opened up Troop L in Long Island, and the first thing they said is, all the guys, there was 2 of us from Long Island, you're just staying here. So I'm like, it doesn't make it any worth my while anymore.
Right.
So waited, and I got called for the state troopers, but at that time they were going through a lot of diversity, so they sent me another letter 2 days later that, you pull from this class, you might be in the next class. And that Friday, I got the call from the fire department to go get sworn in on Saturday.
Wow. Did your old man tell you to take the test even though you wanted to be a trooper? Did he say like
exactly? Yeah. He did
right?
Take all the civil service tests, and where we grew up in Brentwood, we had probably the largest civil service contingent out there. Everybody was from Brentwood. We had a lot of guys from high school that was taking the test with carloads going to take it. Like Danny Potter was from Brentwood as well. So we all
where did your old man work, Mike?
He worked out of 48th in the Hunts Point section of the Bronx.
Right. Well, hold on. Maybe if you sat in on the whole pre-show, maybe you'd have all these answers. I'm just saying.
I don't want to know on the pre-show. I want to know now.
I couldn't answer.
Good
enough.
I don't want to ask 16 questions.
Oh, hey Lou, that's right. Don't take no shit off of nobody. All right.
Hey.
No, but he's stumbling over there now, right? No.
I just said good for you. Good for you. Good answer.
Nice.
What year did he get on, Mike?
He got on at probably 58, I think, about that time. Spent 21 years. He got out of the job probably in 80, right before I came on. In about 78, he got hurt in a drill. They were drilling across the street from the firehouse, doing life rescue, rope rescue. And he went out the second and third story window with a single slide, and the roof broke.
Oh, shit.
It fell like 2 stories.
Wow. Pete, show that other picture where they're looking through the window of the Vacant. That's probably where he was sliding off of, right?
Yeah.
Allegedly.
I'll find it.
So that put him out of the job.
Where is he in this picture?
This picture, he's the third one, back row, from the right, I'm sorry.
From the left? I was going to say, hold on a minute, man.
Is that the Vidge?
Right.
Is that the Vidge?
That's the Vidge. We're standing right next to him.
Holy
a young
mackerel.
John Vigiano from 103.
Wow. 103. I never heard of it. Where is that?
Yeah.
103. 103.
Yo,
look at the cheese man.
Unnecessary cheese man. Thank
Just
you.
because. Hey, Mike, looking good. The cheese man. Hey, Mike, looking good.
Thank you, boys. Thank you so much. Here's that shot from the from.
Oh yeah, pull that up, Pete.
Is that your father's picture?
Yeah, well, it's Larry McGivner was a fireman in 48 truck, and he was a great photographer. And he went across. He would take shots all over the South Bronx at the time. And he took this one from the vacant building across the street.
That's an incroble picture.
Isn't that a great shot?
It's one of the best shots of Firehouse I've ever seen.
That was
it's amazing.
I got another two great shots here. Look at this one.
That's the old wooden tiller.
Oh, wow. And which one's your father? The first one? Is he the first guy there?
So he did his whole career in 48?
Yes.
Whole career as a fireman too, right? Smart guy. See that?
Yes. See?
and I got one more great one here with these salty gentlemen, old school.
Yeah, it was great
he was seeing a ton of work there at that time, right?
The 70s?
70s, they started in like 67. They were doing up to like 7,000 runs a year in 68, 69, 70.
So he must have really seen that firehouse change, like how it went from, if he got there in the 50s, right? To the 80s.
Who's the guy in the back row peeking through he looks like a mental patient.
I forgot his name. I have to get
looks like Milner.
It looks like a homeless guy.
Yeah, actually, he looks like our friend Tivadar, right? Don't do it.
Again. The guy here is laughing at him.
No, he could be Mike Milner. It really could be. Look.
Oh, hey, maybe it's Mike Milner.
He doesn't have the curly hair, though. That's the problem.
Exactly. But back in the day, with 48 truckers, they were just up there with 31, 42.
Wow.
59, 40, 19. They were all doing the work up there, and they were going crazy.
Now, did you
firehouse? You remember going to the firehouse?
I was just going to ask you that.
I went there a couple of times when I was probably a teenager. I'm trying to think back of the years, but I remember, going right on the rig. At that time, they had the rig with the phone booth, the rear mount. So I just sat in the crew cab there, and he said, "You get a job, just jump in the cab and stay there." And I remember they had, as soon as they go out the door, they had a Vacant, a good job. First dude, pull up. I'm sitting in a cab. They're putting the aerial up over my head, everything else. And at that time, every kid in the area was climbing all over the rig. It was a big jungle gym as the job was going on. And I'm sitting there from, a kid from Long Island going, "Oh my God, what the hell am I doing here?"
Yeah.
So it was incredible, just watching these guys work and what was going on in the neighborhood at the time. They were running around all day long. You didn't stop. You're just running from fire to fire, run false alarms here and there. But
they were probably working straight tours back then, right, Mike?
Oh, definitely, yeah, definitely. Yeah, this group of carpool buddies that they had a carpool. I mean, my father was about 6 foot. The rest of them were about 6 foot, some a little bit taller, and they had the shittiest ghetto cars they can have to go back and forth to the firehouse. Half of them didn't have heat, so they would get out of their own cars with their blankets, sit in the car because nobody had heat in the wintertime. They had cardboard over the floorboards because the feet would fall through, it was all rusted out. And it was like a clown car when they get out of work. If they pull up in front of the house, they all getting out. All these big guys, 6'2", 6'3", climbing out of the car. It was hysterical.
Did they have Christmas parties back then, Mike? Would you go to the Firehouse Christmas parties? Or
no, I don't remember any firehouse. No? I don't think. I think the neighborhood was that bad that they had usually a volley house somewhere else in the island, and they weren't to the firehouse.
Yeah, good point.
That's what I was going to say. He went from a shorter commute to. Or was he in the firehouse when he lived in the Bronx, right? When you guys lived in the Bronx?
Yeah, definitely.
And then he moved all the way out to the island, and just to move his family.
He took the hit for the family, bro.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because years later, like 10 years later, when the Bronx was starting to turn, he would come home. He goes, "Oh, we just had a second alarm, and I was pulling ceilings in our own apartment."
No way! Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, because I know the layout. Crawling around. He went into all our. We had the big H type. We had all the relatives living in the building also. So he went to everybody's apartment at the time, just going through and walking through the old apartments and stuff.
Oh, wow. Crazy, man.
Yeah, imagine going to a fire in your old house.
That's crazy. I don't know if I never even thought about that, but like my mom's house, that would be wild to have a fire in there.
Yeah.
Now that
you're walking in, rolling memories, and also you have to start wrecking it again.
Crawl into your old bedroom. You're like, oh shit, this is where I got Stinky Pinky for the first time.
What's the matter with you?
My God.
How many times do you say that a day? How many times? You said that about 50 times already. What's the matter with you?
What's the
matter with you?
What's the matter with you?
That's pretty crazy. Is your old man still around?
No, he passed away probably about a year and a half ago now. So
how old was he?
He was 86. 86. He had a great life.
Good for him, man.
Not bad for a guy who didn't use masks back in the day working in the South Bronx, man.
Exactly. I don't know how half of these guys that worked in the Bronx or anywhere in the city at that time is still alive, what they went through without masks, reading everything, job to job to job, going into job, passing out, getting dragged out, revived, and going back to fire later on.
You always used to see those guys on oxygen all the time, right? Just get a little oxygen, and that's what they did.
Yeah, passing out the fire, go back to the kitchen, passing out at the kitchen. Back in those days, right? Allegedly.
Yeah. Allegedly, they had all the they had the Rheingold factory nearby. Used to work.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Didn't that be a suck?
Yeah. But back then, it's probably
probably
beer.
Like gold, bro.
Schaefer, right? Schaefer, Rheingold. Holy Christ.
Schlitz.
That can't be good.
Yeah. Do you remember what it was like the culture back then? Do you remember anything you could compare it to, like when you were on the job? Like, was it a lot looser? Was it a lot? What was it like back in the in the 70s and the 60s? There,
it was. I would say, if not the same, probably a little bit crazier. I mean, you had big names back then. I mean, you worked with guys like. Some names that I throw out there: Tom Slevin, Joel Shelton, Charlie Rivera, Tom Kennedy, Alan Seebeck. All these guys, it was like a cast of characters. Whether at the firehouse or every time there was a party at our house and all these guys showed up, it was like kindergarten all over again. They were in the basement, and then you go down the next day, they're still laying on the floor down there. It was incredible.
Yeah. How'd your mother? Yeah, we ask guys all the time, because the wives, that's a big toll on the wives. So how did your mother handle being in the fire?
Yeah.
Was it?
It was probably the same thing as what my wife's going through now and everything else. What we all went through. Then he started working at 24, so it was a little bit better. Coming in and a little bit more time in between. But it was better for us kids because every time we got in trouble in the beginning of his tour. My mother would say, "Wait until your father comes home." We look at our watch, like, hey, someone in 23 hours. By that time, he's got to forget all about it. So it was good for us that way. But for missing a lot of holidays and things like that, and
Yeah, I remember that too. My father, is Daddy home for Christmas Eve? Will Daddy be home on Christmas Day? Stuff like that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we all went through it. So it's the same thing. It's, my kids when young, they thought Christmas was like 3 days in a row. It's like, depending on what day it was. When I was
right. Yeah.
So,
See, my old man used to work straight to us too. So when he would be away, we'd be like, yeah, man, at least we don't have to sit there and watch like Nova or Channel 13. We can watch some cool TV. We only have one TV in the house. So
exactly.
He was gone. Yeah. All right. So you decide to get on the job instead of the state police, the troopers. You get called for this, and you go in 81, correct?
Yes.
How long was
probably
July 80? It looks like it was what, only a month?
Yeah, probably about 4 or 5 weeks at that time. Because at that time, it was the first push. They was putting 300 firemen on it at one time. So they had 3 classes of 300, back to back.
Wow.
So we were in probie school. It was a split session. Half of the 300 were in the morning, and the other ones came in the afternoon. So it was, you didn't know whether you were coming or going. So it was really a lot of guys, a lot of instructors
Right.
changing out, switching tours. So it was really pretty hectic. And I'm surprised they pulled it off at that time. That was a gigantic class for not having that many classes, previously, because the test was held up in, 77 and 79, everything.
LT, if knowing what you know now about your career and your whole everything you've done, if you could have flown back to your probie class and seen yourself, and you said to yourself, "Hey, you're going to do all this stuff," would your probie self have believed you, or were you confident? You know what I mean? Or was it more like, "Yeah, right, come on," you know what I mean? Or you were just there for the ride?
No, no one ever, really knows what the job is unless you were a volunteer fireman, went through it a little bit. We were all very naive. We were just going through the paces. It wasn't until you get to the firehouse and you get your first job that you realize, what the hell am I doing? I should have took the cops test, right?
Yeah.
And it's just crazy because, what they put you in probie school is just the basics.
Right.
You get a little bit of taste of the smoke in the smokehouse and you think you're going to die there. And then it's nothing like going to a real fire.
Right.
So it's a, complete reversal of what you actually expect in a fire.
And Mike, you had a little taste of it. You were in the fire truck as a kid. You saw fires. I mean, I had no idea, and I grew up with Coobs, and all his his brothers and his father were firemen. And I remember going to the firehouse, which was right down the block from where we lived by his father. But I never really saw what it looked like to have to see fire coming out the window, or to I had no idea. Like you said, no idea. It was like a
right.
Yeah. I had no idea what to expect. It was weird, and then I just fell in love with the thing. You know what I mean? It was just a natural fit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, everybody grows into it. If you make it past your first fire, you're going to stay there for the rest of your career, type of thing.
Right.
But it's one thing looking for fire coming out the windows. You're on the street looking in. It's completely different from being inside, not seeing anything. So
right. Yeah. Well, what did Frank Lieb say? Chief Lieb, right? He says we just do enough in probie school. Right, you really learn the job on the job. When you get to the firehouse is when you start learning, right? So
exactly,
very true,
exactly.
Right? I mean, what can they teach you? They can teach you the basics, but they really can't teach you the job.
Right.
You have to do that. It's up to the senior guys in the firehouse and go into jobs to learn the rest of the job.
Exactly. They just teach you the foundation, and then you have to build up on that when you get to the firehouse.
Correct.
So you get assigned to Ladder 20, the old medical office. I think we got a picture of that, Pete. Was it Tilla, right, back then?
Yes.
The old man didn't want to get him into the Bronx or anything like that. No pull, no strings, no
Well, let me tell you the story about
he beat it.
I've never done this before.
That might be the first guest who pulled it on us before we got a chance to do it.
So I talked to my father. He goes, "Where do you want to go?" I said, at that time I was looking at all the runs of workers. I figured, I'd like to go to Harlem. They're really busy up there. I wanted to go to a truck, and all 26, 28, 23, 40, 30. They were all doing the work at the time. And I'm looking at that group of busy truck companies at that time I might have a better chance of going something like that. So I said, any truck in Harlem, would be great. Love to go there. He goes, all right, I'll make a call. He called up his friend that was a Bronx trustee at the time, and he goes, I'll take care of it, no problem. So we're in probie school. The last day, the department orders come down for the assignments for all the probies. Everybody lines up, and the instructor comes over. Okay, let me look you up. So and so is going here, so and so is going there. It comes up, hey, Mike. Well, okay, let me look you up. He goes, you go into ladder 20. I'm like, I looked at him and I said, I never heard of that before. Ladder 20. Where's that? 20. He looked at me and goes, I don't know. He goes, come with me. This is a senior lieutenant. And he goes, we got a location chart. And we're looking into 6th Division, 5th Division, everything. Like, he goes, I can't find it. And we go down, we start from the top now, coming down, and he finds it. He goes, 20 truck, 1st Division. He goes, oh, that's right. It's a medical office. I go, medical office? He goes, yeah. I goes, it's not in Harlem? He goes, it's not even close to Harlem. So I go home that night. My father goes, where do you get assigned? I said, 20 truck. He goes, where's that? I'm like, well, it's not in Harlem. I know that. You better call your friend up and tell him. He goes, so I call up his friend. He goes, what happened? He goes, well, I put him in for a truck with 20. All the 20s are up in Harlem, except for one. And that's
oh my God!
So all those people with the hooks that have really good stories, I don't have one of those really good stories.
So you end up in 20. Well, they have an engine with them? 13 engine? Or?
No, it was 13 engine. Was disbanded probably about 6 or 7 years before I got there. It was a double house, but it was just a ladder 20 and the Manhattan Borough Command upstairs.
Oh, so that was a bad single truck, at least.
Yeah,
right?
It was nice. I mean, it was a great learning experience
for me. Work there in '81. I don't care where it was, and you were doing work somewhere.
Not really. We did some work in the area. You know, we had Soho, Chinatown, Little Italy, and things like that. But
that's what I'm saying. Those jobs, the Chinatown, all those jobs, right? Those were big jobs at the
the time. Sure. You know, we had some work down in Lower East Side. We were a second alarm truck or all hands truck every once in a while. But it wasn't that busy. It was pretty slow. Good learning. We were the only truck on the job that had a subcellar pipe that we had to drill on every once in a while, and the chief came by for inspections. You thought the cellar pipe was bad putting together? When you put a
I'm out on that. I'm out on the subcellar.
They come out as like 50 pieces. It's like you look at it, it's crazy. But it was a great experience. You know, you're in a tiller rig. I liked driving a tiller. That was great. It was a lot of fun. The officers at the time were Captain Horton was a great guy. He was on a chief's list, so he was a short timer. He was on his way out. And luckily at that time, the job was turning things around, and every fireman that was getting promoted to a lieutenant was being put from busy companies, put in 1st Division. So we had 3 openings, 2 lieutenants and a captain that was open spots in ladder 20. So we get the 3 new lieutenants. The covering captain was Rich Fanning, who was a phenomenal fire officer, a fireman in 19 truck, lieutenant in 255 engine out in Brooklyn.
Wow.
And now the captain of 20 truck.
Brooklyn, is that the Borough of Fire?
Borough of Fire, there you go.
Stuck it in there.
You thought you would get it.
So he was a great fire officer. And it's funny because, first roll call,
great.
He goes, I'm here to cover, and I'll just, we're here to learn, teach you guys. I know you're not that busy, but we're going to, see what we're going to do for you. And he goes, well, when the guys make a comment like, oh, this guy thinks he's Superman. He goes, as a matter of fact, I am. And he goes back in the office, comes back in his briefcase, and he whips out a picture of him standing on the engine 255 with a Superman outfit on. With his hands like this. He goes, as a matter of fact, I was Superman. And that picture's probably still on the internet too. Look it up. But he was a character. He was a great officer.
Tell me his name
liked
again?
drilling.
255.
Richard Fanning. 255 engine.
Gotcha. Go ahead.
But he was a great officer. Liked to drill. A lot of the guys that were at ladder 20 at the time were all great guys. A lot of them were there because they came from a little bit busy companies. They really didn't want to do that much fire duty anymore. A lot lived in Staten Island. So they were just worried about the commute back and forth. So it was good. You
have any old Harlem guys there?
No, most of the guys from other parts of the city, all over. Nobody really, that. There you go.
No way, you pulled that up, Pete. Are you kidding me?
Oh, Pete, great job, bro.
There you go.
There he is, the Superman.
Pete, send that to my email. That's going on the Instagram
10-4. Send it right now.
Great man.
Is there a story behind that? Or?
There probably is, but you have to get to him or to you from 255, 157 at the time. But he was a great guy. He wound up being first deputy commissioner under Spinato, I believe. He worked his way up.
Really?
Phenomenal officer. Another guy we got was Lieutenant Tom Goulner, who was from 42 truck as a fireman during the war years. Another great officer. And the third guy was this guy from Brooklyn, Jack Pritchard.
Never heard of him.
Oh, never heard of that guy. Nope.
He came. He was in my groups.
Are you kidding me? Oh my God.
So I worked with, all on roll for all three of them.
Holy mackerel.
Jack Pritchett, he goes, come on, let's go out. We would just go out to the Lower East Side into a vacant building. The rest of the guys are bitching and moaning. He would just take me, grab the store, grab this tool, grab that, go in, spend about 3 hours in a vacant building, pulling ceilings, cutting roofs and everything else. It was a great learning experience. It was phenomenal.
Taught by the guy, right? I mean,
he is the guy.
You're going to get taught by somebody. You might as well be the guy, right?
And the other guys in the company was saying, be careful with this guy at a fire. Don't follow him into the fires. Wind up getting you killed and everything. I'm like, I don't know anything better than that. So didn't know his background as much as everybody else did.
I'll follow that guy anyway.
After a while.
Stand out in the street with us. You'll be safe. Stand in the street with us. You'll be fine.
Him and I used to stay in the kitchen, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Just listens to his fire stories, going back and forth. It was great learning experience.
Wow, what a great guy to learn to as a probie. Can you imagine?
All three of those guys.
Yeah. It was funny with Jack because all the dispatchers. So every once in a while, we had multiple alarms going on in Brooklyn. Okay, we're relocating. We go to 118 truck first, and then go to 132 truck.
And just keep hopscotching trying to get into the job.
The guys are moaning and bitching and moaning, and I'm like, this is great. We're just going from firehouse to firehouse. It was awesome. Phenomenal. Yeah, it was.
So what makes the little? You're sitting looking at the watch like, I gotta get out of here, man. We're not doing enough fire duty here. Or was it somebody who kind of said, man, we got to get this kid out of here?
Most of the three officers were saying, this is a great place, if you want to do this type of work, but if you really want to learn a job, you really have to go somewhere else. And they encourage me to, spend your time here, do a year here, and then try to get somewhere else that's a little busier. And I sat down with, Jack Pritchett, and he went over it. He goes, this is the areas, and you want to go to Brooklyn, there's the areas in Brooklyn that are going to start getting busier and busier as time goes on. So, I wound up put my paper in after about a year. And I told my father, I said, don't call the Bronx trustee, call somebody else. Just help me get out of here.
Guy. Don't use the other guy.
Yeah. Go to the first string rather than the second string. And
so what places did you put on your transfer?
I think it was 147, 123, 113, 176, 175, 120, that type of thing. At that time you had probably 6 choices.
Can't go wrong with any of those right there.
No, not at all. So it worked out
in
very
1981?
Oh, 82 at the time. Yeah.
82. Oh, yeah.
So who did he wind up calling? Is anybody we know, or was it?
Yeah, it was actually the old captain of 94 Incher was Charlie Rivera, who was then probably chief of operations. So Charlie was working with my father for many years. So it's like we'll see what we can do. So
Chuck the Fixer.
Just got me. He goes 176. Go with you. I said I'll take any truck in Brooklyn at this point. And just 176 is a great place to go. Yeah.
Great. Oh my God, that was a tin house then, right?
Tin house. When I worked in
20 truck, that Petey.
I'm just about to bring that up, brother.
When I worked in the 20 truck, the first thing the old officers told me to do is you get off the rig. You're a professional. You walk into the building. You size up the building. You take your time. You walk in, and act like a professional. Don't run around with your head cut off and things like that. All right. So get transferred to Brooklyn, go to the tin house, put all my stuff in the gear, in the trunk of my car, pull up, and as it was this picture of the streets, Bergen Street's on the left-hand side. I pulled my car up there. It was a fairly decent car because at ladder 20, we had a parking lot. So I didn't have to worry about the car getting broken into or anything. It was nobody there at night anyway. This downtown was deserted. So pretty decent car. I think I had a Buick Regal at the time, and pulled into the tin house. There's a couple of guys hanging out in the front of the firehouse there. I pull up the car, get my stuff out of the trunk. I said, "How you doing?" I'm Mike Pena. I'm just transferred in. "Oh, you're welcome." He goes, first thing I said, "You got to get rid of that car." I'm like, "What do you mean?" So they're saying that, there's a kid with his bicycle coming flying down a sidewalk, right? Passes us and T-bones my car. Boom. I see what you mean. So that was the start. So
my God.
The craziness
welcome to Brooklyn.
Begins. Yeah, the craziness begins.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who was the captain there when you went there?
Tony Adamo. Tough Tony Adamo. Phenomenal.
We got stories from him. He said it was tough, man. Like he was, straight and, he was hard on the guys. Well, he expected a lot from his guys, rather,
Yeah. And, we would do anything for him. we knew him, and there was nothing, he would ask us to do, we wouldn't do, he was that type of officer. Never really had to give a lot of orders at the job or anything, but if he told you to do something, like, you did it, and it was two other guys coming with you to help you out too. So
right.
That's the type of boss he was, and he was very fair with all the guys. When I got there, transferred in, there was one of the firemen, Charlie Gardner, came across the floor from 232 engine on a transfer, and Jimmy McNally came as a probie.
Wow.
So, and Tough Tony was like, none of you guys are my choice. What's going on here? So he was so mad at Charlie coming across the floor and Jimmy coming as a probie. He saw me about 4 days later. He goes, I haven't forgotten about you. I'm going to get you and find out how you got here also. So I looked out, not getting caught up right away with, who'd you come with, who got you here type of thing. So, but Tough Tony was a good officer. I mean, phenomenal fireman. And luckily, it was all senior men at that time. A lot of guys from, the 70s, early 70s, even some 60s that were still there all through the war years. When they formed 176 or in the early 70s, they all came over and just, stayed there because it was so busy. Jimmy Burke was a phenomenal fireman. Kenny Memon, who wound up being a lieutenant rescue 4, phenomenal guy. Mike Pagano, just a ton of guys. It was just a great place to work. Great engine, camaraderie. It was like a sports capital of the world. You had the first thing he'd ask you, what sports do you play? You play hockey, basketball, football, and the different coaches would take you on the side. Okay, we have practice on this night, this and that. So it was good.
They always had a good. I used to play on their hockey team actually. They always had all those guys.
Yeah, it was great. And the rig at that time, we had the rig with the phone booth on the side. It was great. I liked riding that position. You had the cam all the time and sitting in the phone booth. You can always see what was going on as you're pulling into the box and everything. So it was really good until we had the water fights. And then, in the phone booth, the chauffeur would just pull up next to 120 and 120 would just empty every can they had into the phone booth, but you standing
there. Who is this here, Mike?
That was Dominic Manzella. He's one of the lieutenants, 176 that came, a couple of years after I got there. Another good guy, great guy, very comical, great sense of humor, never took anything seriously, but was a good fire officer. Had a lot of fun. All the fire officers, Kenny Graft was another guy that was there. All good officers always gravitate to good companies. So we always had, besides the senior men that were great, always had the good officers.
Now, what you said that when they formed 176, I'm a little lost there. When did they form 176?
Back in the war years when it was starting to get really busy. 120 was busy, 103 was busy, 123. And they needed to put another company to cut down on some of the running because they were getting up at one time, 120 was getting up to like 8,000, 9,000 runs type of thing a year. So they wanted to put another company in there. So eventually they put 232 was in quarters with 120 and 231 at the time with the 404 Battalion. So they had 3 companies and a battalion chief. So they moved 232 into Rockaway Avenue to the Tin House. And then it was TCU, Tactical Control Unit, I think it was 732.
Right.
That was also there. And they wound up turning them into Ladder 176.
Oh. Now those TCUs, they only came on like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or something, right? Or something?
Yeah, 3 o'clock to like midnight or 2 o'clock, and just went as a manpower unit, type of thing.
So they turned that into Ladder 176. And what year was this roughly? In the early...
I think it's 71, I believe.
Oh shit! I didn't even know that. Did you know that?
Yeah, that what's his name? Galleon talked about that.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he did.
And a lot of guys from there's a second section of 233 wound up. A lot of the guys from there came over and started the truck. And at that time, they gave them the fire truck with no tools. And a lot of 120 wound up lending them a lot of the tools to get them started, just to have enough for the guys on the rig at that time. Yeah, right? The job didn't give anything.
Oh, it was the 70s. They had no money. You had no money.
Yeah. We didn't have a tool room back then. You just had a gold closet in the firehouse. That was it.
And I think we had talked about that, Mike. And that's why, it was when you had your tool. If you you held on, you did not lose a tool. That was one of the things. Even I got a 93, and that was ingrained in me. You do not lose sight of your tool. You don't leave it anywhere unless you know that you can come back and get it. Because
right.
And I'm sure that's where that stemmed from over the years. You know, I think we had talked about that. Is that you don't, you know, we didn't have the money.
Right.
You didn't lose a Halligan. You know what I mean? For God's sake.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. Back then, you know, a lot of the companies were buying the Halligans out of their own pocket. You know, you had the claw tool, maybe one claw tool, but a Halligan was like gold. You know, a lot of guys chipped in and bought that themselves, so they didn't want to lose that.
Yeah.
But you know, 176 is very funny. When I said, you know, ladder 20, what the guys, the officers told me, get off the rig. You know, you're a professional. You walk to the fire, everything else. Get to 176 now. And the phone booth, you know, get myself all set up, right? You put the mask on the seat there, my hook, my can, ready to go. Box comes in. Okay, first due. Guys, first of all, they're running to the rig. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, get in, get dressed, get in there, pull out. The rig just flies out of quarters. Turns the corner. We're like, one side of the rig is tilting, going down the block. Pull up in front of the building. We almost come to a skid, right? I grab my tool, I grab my mask, turn around, grab the hook, grab the can, I turn around, and I didn't see anybody in the street. All I saw was all the 4 doors open and nobody's around. I'm going, oh God. There's no smokes. I don't know where the building is. I run to the front. I look up on the run card, you know, what the address is. Now I'm trying to catch up to them. It was like, okay, you know, back again, welcome to Brooklyn. You know, it's a whole
different animal there in the borough of fire. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
And you know, you were already behind.
Like, welcome to Brooklyn.
Well, he wants to prove himself too. You know what I mean? Everybody's watching, right? I mean, you just transferred in, so you know you want to make a good impression, obviously, to the guys, and so all those first runs are like a big step. You know, people are going to be watching every move. You know, until they get to know who you are, obviously, right?
And when you transferred in from ladder 20, were they like, huh? Where?
Oh yeah.
Did they ask you where it's at?
Pretty much, yeah. They wouldn't have got that answer right. But,
so especially because of that, you were like on fire, right?
Yeah, well, you want to do your best, but luckily, you know, as with any new person, you know, going to a different, you know, atmosphere like that is you're going to make mistakes, and luckily the senior men were there. They would just take you aside. He goes, you know, next time you might want to do this. They would never say you did anything wrong. They just tell you how to improve going forward. So it was phenomenal.
That's
you know,
awesome.
they would just, even at the job, they would say, come back in, let's walk through the building. Let me show you, you know, this way. It's an easy way to get to the rear fire escape, or another way to get to the roof. You know, don't take this scuttle, take this scuttle. You don't want to get stuck anywhere.
Wow.
So it was you were like a sponge. You had to, you know, just listen to what they had to say and never question anything because, you know, they went through it. They knew what they were doing.
Well, in the end, too, you just really got off probation. Right?
Yeah,
you were a kid still, you know, and they knew where the 20 truck was, so they knew that you were just basically learning, and you know, from the beginning again, for the most part.
Exactly. You know, I was like being a pro, being a busy company. That's what it was. You know, I didn't go to that many fires in a lot of 20 to have that much experience to really know what I was doing.
Well, the question we always ask: how long you're 176? You step in the door till you go to your first job.
So you know, I don't remember. It was within a couple of tours. Definitely. 1 or 2 tours. We were doing a lot of work at the time, a lot of running around. What I found in ladder 20, and probably, you know, a lot of guys can relate to this, is, you know, Sunday mornings was always the busiest time in the areas like that, in the ghettos. It was everybody out partying the night before, falling asleep, cigarette here, cigarette there. And usually about 7 o'clock, you know, a lot of guys would just get out of bed and go get a cup of coffee. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And all of a sudden the bells would go off, and, you know, every Sunday morning you were catching good occupied work. There were people trapped all the time. And it was one of the things that you get used to after a while. And it just, every Sunday morning, you knew, get up, you know, get ready because you're going to work.
Right.
And, you know,
any really busy tours that come to mind as far as the amount of jobs that you would go to in one tour? Any of them stand out to you?
Not really. You know, it's hard to say, you know, remember, you know, way back when, because there was so many tours that were busy, you know, saying how many fires we went to in a night. I really can't say, you know, truthfully, you know, if I counted how many jobs we went to, but we would go to, you know, back-to-back jobs. One thing with 176, we never really took time. When we had a relocator in quarters, we just came back and let them go right away. It went up, we changed our clothes.
They were prepping you for SOC. They were getting you ready for SOC.
Exactly. Because that was the mentality. They just want to go to fires. And the quicker we let the relocator go, you know, we're ready for another fire. And a lot of times the relocator would pull on the apron and getting box transmitted down the block for possible fire. So it was good that way. And the office was very proactive with that. If you want to change really quick.
Yeah, get quick. Back That's it. I used to say the same thing all the time. You want, guys need a quick blow. Drink some water, get some hydrate. Wash your face. Change your drawers. But we're back in service in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, we're not taking. But again, in other places.
Somebody's listening to the radio, no less. So if we
Yeah. So no doubt about that.
Something came in, we punch ourselves back in.
But the whole thing was, too, is other places, other boroughs, right? They would take 2 hours. It was a commonplace thing. Like, you worked, you're taking your time, for the city. And that's really
everybody had their thoughts. Good union thing to do, right?
Yeah. Listen, everybody had their way, and that's what made the boroughs so different, right? That's what made the borough so different. Every borough was like its own little city, really.
Exactly. When we relocated to other companies, we would stay there for an hour or so. We'd be standing around. We would be sitting on the rig like, "You guys done yet?" Because we want to get out of
here. Right.
It was hard.
And that's another reason probably why none of these guys knew where Ladder 20 was, because they weren't freaking medical leave. They didn't tap out all the time, right?
Exactly.
Know where 20 truck was.
Right. But it was a good company. A lot of work. A lot of first due work. We had a small response area. We ran it with great companies: 123, 120, 175, 112, 111. So you were always doing something, whether it be on the first alarm, the first or second truck, or you're going to be an all hands truck anywhere. So we were always at that time you're doing a lot of work.
I like the sticks better than the tower. That's my thing. I always love.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I don't want to be on a turntable or in a bucket type of thing, but everybody has their own preference, and a lot of guys like the tower ladder, and a lot of guys like the rear mounts.
Each his own. Yeah, Cheeseman says that Pete Martin kept a journal of every job he ever went to in his career. That's what Cheeseman is saying.
Yeah. Pete Martin and Georgie Guiner were also Lieutenant 176 and Fireman 120. Georgie had like a journal book, and he just, every run he put in their journal, he put in his journal. That guy was
some guy. I remember running to him.
Yeah.
Did he just retire?
Yeah, just a couple months ago.
Yeah. So I remember him when I was in 290-103 going there, and he was a senior lieutenant there, obviously, he was there a long time. But I remember seeing him all the time. Like, he's been there a long freaking.
Yes.
Holy mackerel. He saw some fire, that guy.
He had to be probably 30 years on the job, even more than that. But he spent all his time at 120 and 176.
Yeah. He was
he probably went through a couple of journals.
No doubt about that.
Yeah, but he tracked every run, put a description about the run and job he had and everything else.
That's amazing, man. That's really amazing.
You think back, if we all would have did that, it would have been so much better to remember all these stories now.
Oh yeah,
maybe we got to get him on.
That's why we got this. That's why we got this show, Lou, so we can get all of these memories on tape, right, Lou?
There you go.
Yeah,
but 176 is good, guys. And Pete, if you could throw up that church fire.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody had their own sense of humor and things like that. We got called.
There's no sense of humor about this one, though.
So we were on the second or third alarm for this, and the church was roaring, and every building on the exposures across the street actually were all smoking. The street was smoking.
That had to be hot as hell, man.
Look at the sidewalk.
111 was parked in the street.
You can still feel the heat coming.
I still feel it.
And just to describe this very quickly to our listening audience, take a campfire, multiply it by 1,000,000, and put a building in it, and it still wouldn't even come close to the fireball coming out of this thing. Which is, by the way, LT told us that it's now a parking lot.
So this building was. Everything was smoking. The buildings across the street were just about ready to ignite. So we pull up at 176, park the rig. 111's buckets up. They're all Dennis Murphy and his other guys are ducking down in the bucket because the heat's so bad.
Oh, that was the one that he was in the bucket. Yeah, I remember that story. Yeah.
Rescue 2 was wetting them down rather than the fire.
Yes, I have that picture actually.
Yeah. So we pull up, jump off the rig, grab our tools, and John Iovino was a chauffeur. As I walked past him, he grabs my arm. He goes, "Stop." I said, "What's the matter?" He goes, "Come here." He goes, "This is one of those fires. We just have to stop and look and go, wow." And he goes, "Okay, we're good. Let's go now."
Yeah, man.
And look at this.
Holy shit.
You just got to take the time to see the
got to breathe it all out, take it all in.
Look at this shot. Look at this shot.
That's a different job. That's in Rescue 2, I think, right?
Yeah.
It is. Sorry, my bad. I thought that one matched up with this one. My bad. Anyway, yeah, what a fire.
Yeah, it was a good job. I mean, all the exposures, I mean, the embers, it wound up being a fourth or fifth alarm, I think, with all the buildings across the street that were catching up.
Wow.
And they were there for a long time, most of the night.
Plenty of work for everybody. Woo!
Yeah. How many times you heard that, right?
Yeah. And one of the things in 176 too, we had the advantage of having a lot of vacants too. You know, it was a good thing and a bad thing. It was a good thing for learning experience because, you know, you went a lot of drilling in the vacant buildings, but all the jobs you caught in the vacant buildings too also gave you the confidence. You know, they weren't as smoky as the occupied, with all the windows still intact, but a lot of the vacant buildings, you get your confidence in crawling down a hallway, crawling under fire, moving a line in, you know, getting to the roof, getting on the fire escape, being a little bit more cautious on a fire escape because usually it was a piece of shit. It was falling off the building. You know, make sure you shook it, or, you know, walking up the threads and they were falling under your feet, things like that.
Yeah.
But they helped you, you know, build that confidence. So when, you know, a good occupied job did come in, at least you know what to expect a little bit with the fire.
Right. Did you do any work in an engine at all, Lou, or you never got any chance?
No, just on details. You know, 227, 231, 232.
Did you catch anything?
A little, you know, here and there, but you wind up being a control man type of thing. You just something hose, which, you know, was fine with me. That was, you know, the job that had to be done. So you're dealing with companies, you know, 232, 231, 227. You weren't getting near that nozzle anyway. Those guys, you know, you'll be dragging out the hose and the guy will still be attached to the nozzle. So, you know, you weren't getting near it. So you knew.
So you had to wait to get to rescue two to do the old turn off the bottle and take the nozzle.
Exactly. Yeah.
Kidding. I'm kidding. Just kidding.
Mike, were you there when they closed down the tin house?
No, I was in Rescue 2 at that time.
You already left?
It was the truck had moved out, I think, a year earlier, so the engine was there. But it was just, you know, heartbreaking to see what we did for the tin house. You know, we did the tin house turkey trot every year. You know, raising money for the Widows and Orphans Fund.
They're still doing it.
Yeah, still doing it today. And you know, everybody's, you know, 176 and 233 took that on and is still doing it. So it's, and then for the job just to, you know, take 232 and relocate them to 207 and then tell them they're closed.
Yeah, that's messed up.
I don't think it was a fair thing to do. It wasn't, you know, the right thing to do.
On Super Bowl Sunday, no less.
Super Bowl Sunday. You know, they still had the meal in the oven.
That's incredible.
So, yeah.
Scumbags, man.
Yeah, what's his name?
Really?
Bobby G told us about that story. Like, I couldn't even believe that story. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah. It's something you wouldn't believe if somebody told it to you unless you really experienced it.
Yeah, right.
Really
Exactly.
You know, the way the Chiefs operated and did that to not only firemen, but, you know, firemen from a company that did a lot for the, you know, community, for the widows and orphans and things like that.
Amazing.
But it came down to, you know, one chief wanted to keep 233 open. That's where he used to work as a fireman. So it came down 233 or 232. And that's how they made that choice.
Wow.
Shit.
Huh. All right. So how does it come about that you're there? How many years? You 82 to 85, right? 3 years?
Yeah, short time, like 3 years. And I was thinking about, you know, putting paper in for Rescue 2. I'm like, yeah, I'm only here 3 years. I want to get more experience and everything else. And we had a couple of jobs, one day tour. And every time Rescue pulled up, the can man was from 207 engine. And I kept on looking at him like, he's the can man and Rescue 2 from 207 engine. And meanwhile, we went to like 3 or 4 jobs already. And he's going back and forth. I'm like, shit, if he can do it, I can do that. So I'm like, you know, why not? Let me see if I can go talk to Captain Downey and put my name on a list and see what happens. So that's how I made my decision to try to go to Rescue 2. 176 was, you know, slowing down a little bit, not that much, but I was still wanting to go to fires. And they were still on Colton Avenue at the time with 210 engine. So I went, saw Captain Downey and said, you know, I'm interested in coming to the rescue. He asked me, you know, where do you work? How much time you have in a job?
I was just going to say, what was that like walking into that room?
Oh yeah, it was like
mackerel.
It's like going to see the Wizard of Oz. You know, going behind the curtain.
I can't even imagine. I mean, I've been nervous going on interviews. You know, like to say, you know, I can't even imagine what that must have been like to walk into that room.
And luckily, the guys downstairs were pretty good. They could have definitely busted, a guy's chops going up to see the captain, but they were really good about it. Like, go up, knock on his door. He's ready, he'll see you type of thing. So I just sat down, explained to him, where I worked, what I do, and he says, "Well, we're a scuba unit now." And he goes, "Are you scuba qualified?" I said, "No, but I'm just going for my open water pretty soon." He goes, "All right." He goes, "Go for your open water, get qualified. Let me know when what's going to happen, and let me know when you get your certification." I said, "Sure." I said, he goes, "Up, put you on the list." He goes, "The list is I have guys on the list, but I usually it's not in numerical order or anything like that. I take them as I need based on qualifications of where they're coming from." So I said, "All right, I'll put my name on the list. I'm 176. I'm happy to be there. I'm not going to go anywhere else, but to the rescue from there. So let me try it." So it, put in my paper, came back, didn't tell anybody in 176.
I was going to say, did you tell anybody?
They would have killed me. I would have been on the end of the aerial hanging out of rock. So I didn't even tell Bobby Gallione. I didn't even mention it to him. So, and we were really close at the time. And so it was a couple months later. Wasn't expecting a phone call. He calls up, get the department phone. This is Captain Downey. He's still interested in coming over. I said, "Yeah." I said, "I just, got my qualifications, everything else." He goes, "Oh, good." He goes, I might be needing somebody soon." I'm like, "All right." I said, "Whatever." I said, "I'm here. Just let me know."
Oh my God!
It seems like,
oh my God! You have no idea. Like,
no, I know. It's like you said, you're talking to a god amongst men, a demigod.
Lotto.
Yeah.
But I wasn't expecting it because it was like 6 months later that he's given the call. So like I didn't think I thought it was going to be a year or two type of thing.
Right.
And luckily, I can thank Jimmy Irizzo at the time. He was a fireman rescue too. It had injured his back, and he thought he was getting out of the job.
Hey, thanks, Jimmy.
So it was one of those things where at that time, rescue was leaving Colton Avenue and just moving to Bergen Street in that July. So Downey goes, we're moving from Colton Avenue to Bergen Street. I got a spot open. I got to fill it because this guy's wound up getting disability with his back injury. So I said, "All right, just let me know." And I got the call. So I knew Downey was going to call. So what I did is I took all my gear and I put up my locker upstairs in a tin house. I didn't want to leave it on the rack downstairs because I know they found out they would screw around with it.
Yeah.
So get the call from Downey. He goes, "Yeah, I got the spot. Guy's not coming back. Would you want to start in this date?" I said, "Yeah, definitely. I'll be there. No problem." Went in to tell Tony Adamo, and I said, "Tony, the chief captain," I said, "I got the call from Downey. I'm going to go to rescue too." And he goes, "Well, it's good for you, bad for us. I don't want to see you go. You're just settling in here and everything else." I said, "I don't want to leave, but this is an opportunity." He goes, I fully agree with you." He goes, "You definitely get more work and more experience there." So he was very good about it. So get the call for Downey, pack up my stuff, go up to my locker, go upstairs. My lock is still on the locker door. I'm saying, great, they didn't get into my stuff. Get my accommodation, open up the locker, and there's my helmet shining like the golden goblet. They cleaned everything. They polished it, the front piece, the helmet.
The brothers.
Shit.
They did that to me too, Mike. They did the same thing to me.
I mean, I was looking around. I didn't know how they got into the locker, but they probably unscrewed everything in the back and put everything right in its place. They
did the same thing to me.
The brothers. How long before the initial phone call that he says he's going to bring you over till the time that he called you, told you to come over?
It was probably about 2 weeks. He said, "Just get a paper, going that
wow.
type of thing." So it's all on a detail first.
Right.
Everybody goes to any rescue. You go for usually a 30-day detail to be evaluated. Check you out, make sure you want to be there because it's not for everyone. Everybody's different. They expect one thing and it's actually something different.
Right.
So and
did you get to work in Colton Avenue or they moved already?
No. Luckily, they moved into Bergen Street in that July. I got there in end of September, October. So everything was moved in.
All right.
So it was lucked out not having to move anything over. So moved right in, but we had a lot of work in the firehouse. I mean, we took over the firehouse from, at that time, Fire Sal, which was there. They didn't do anything, so they just left it the way it was. So we wanted to clean it up and fix it up. So we had little work details. Each tour would have, something else to do. we scraped all the wainscoting, the paint off the wainscoting up the stairs and all the stairs and things like that, clean up the bricks in the back. We had to build a kitchen table. So Billy Hewitson at the time goes, we're going to get one of those Con Ed reels off, one of the vacant lots. We'll bring it, we'll cut it, and we'll make a table out of it. Everybody thought that was a great idea. The captain, yes, go right ahead. We don't have a table now. We'll make the table, big round table, and we'll engrave the Rescue 2 patch on the top of the table. Larry Gray was going to do that. He was the artist in residence at that time. So we get the reel, we take it apart on the back of the rig, we bring it back to the firehouse, put it together, square off the bottom, clean off the top, and Larry puts a stencil on the top, and he starts routing out the patch with the router. Now, the Con Ed reels has probably 2 million nails in it that holds it together. Every 2 inches he went, the bit was flying off here and there. It was incredible. It took him like 4 days to route the patch into it.
Oh my goodness.
So went through, I don't know how many bits we went through for that. So Billy says, we'll put the resin on, marine resin, we'll resin the top of the table. So we cop off the table, we pour the resin on, and it just disappears. So we go back and it soaks in. We get another 5 gallons, puts it in, soaks in. So now they got me going up to Downey, because Downey was in charge of the commissary at the time. Get more money from the captain, you have to get more resin. I'm like, I'm not going up there. He's going to kick me out. So I wound up going up there, asking for more money. He goes, what are you guys doing? I said, they're building a table. He goes, you went through 10 gallons of resin so far. I'm like, they need another 5 gallons. So I get the money, go out to West Islip to the marine company to get the resin. And the guy in the marine company that's selling the stuff in the store is saying, you guys are building a boat in the basement of the firehouse. I know that. I said, nobody can use this much resin on a table. I'm like, no, seriously, it's a table. And it went through 15 gallons of resin before we went up filling. We thought we were filling up the center of the wheel. And Downey was like, that's it. You guys don't fill it up this time. You're not getting anything. It was like, and that table's still there today. So
I was going to say, they still have that table, right?
Yeah, it's a good thing.
I built the same exact table at 210. I used the same exact thing from Con Ed, because I used to work at Con Ed, so I knew the guys over there. I did the same exact thing. I built the table out of that spindle.
Yeah, it's Bill Hewison's legacy. Billy wound up passing away many years ago. He was a phenomenal fireman, and that's his legacy now in Rescue 2.
Have you seen the new firehouse yet? Have you been there?
Have not been in the new firehouse.
Wow, it's amazing.
Yeah, everybody says that it's completely different from where we were. When the firehouse we were on Bergen Street was like a vacant building. That's what it was. They wanted to do the apparatus floor one time, so we had one brick stanchion holding up the floor in the basement. And the guy goes, the engineer comes in, he goes, "Oh, this is pretty solid," and he hit it, and it moved. He goes, he had to vacate the building.
Can't even believe that thing held that rig, right? I mean, it's incredible.
Exactly. So then they build a cage on the street for us to put the rig in while they're doing the floor. So what do? They measure the apparatus door. Okay. So I don't know if you know the apparatus door in Bergen Street. You had like maybe an inch on each door as you back in.
Yeah.
So the guy builds a cage the width of the apparatus door.
So you got an inch on each side of the cage too.
So you back the rig in. You can't open up the apparatus.
You can't open the doors.
So it was like typical city, lowest bid.
Oh shit.
Any notable jobs while you were in 2?
Well, hold on. Before we get who was there when you got there? Like who was? I know you had some big names there at that time.
Yeah, I mean it was all all the senior men there.
Funny that you should ask.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Pull that up, Petey. Can you make that bigger so we can?
Oh yeah, we can scan through here. Hold on.
Yeah, the officers on the top row alone. Downey, Artie Connolly. He was a fireman at 280 in Squad 4. Lieutenant there as well. Vigiano, 1032. Jimmy Rogers was fireman Rescue 1 before he got there. Then you had, Memolo Pete Bondi, Jack Kleehouse, Lee Iobi.
Wait, who was that second guy you mentioned? I never heard of him.
Bondi.
No. Jack someone?
Kleehouse.
Jack Kleehouse.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm kidding. My goodness.
Wow. Yeah. Well, get into the right, Petey. There you go. Yeah, man. This Kleehouse. Larry Gray.
Wow.
These are all guys that, were working throughout the 70s, some in the 60s as well, all from busy companies.
Who's that guy in the bottom left there, Mike?
Gary Howard.
Oh, Gary, yeah.
Oh, yeah. John Bobby Gallo, you mean?
Yeah, him. But Gary Howard. Gary Howard is. I'm friends with him on Facebook. He was. I saw he was going to watch this as well.
Yes, yeah. Gary's a phenomenal fireman.
From
Lower East Side, went on to to the squad. 75 engine.
Richie Evers.
Richie Evers there. you had a lot of guys that when Captain Gallagher was the captain of Rescue 2 brought them over. And at that time, when Captain Gallagher got to Rescue 2 didn't respond to all the 1075s throughout Brooklyn. They just had like a small response area, and they went on second and third alarms in the rest of the borough. And Captain Gallagher changed that, where he started going to 1075s throughout the entire borough of Brooklyn. And a lot of the old timers didn't want to do that, so they started leaving. So he started bringing in these new guys under him. And a lot of the new guys he brought over was, a mixture of good guys from busy trucks and busy engines, because he wanted, that good mixture of, guys brought over from different companies. Guys like, Lee Ielpi, from 227 Engine is phenomenal nozzle man.
Right.
You got guys, Jack Leos from 108, all these guys that saw more fighter duty than we'll ever see, type of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Legends.
That really is incredible.
It was a great learning experience. And it's funny, in Rescue 2, we had, the 4 officers, and we had 4 groups. In Vidge's groups, we were known as a SWAT group. We're all, very all direct. We acted as a team. We all worked together. So we were the SWAT team. Artie Connolly was the Alzheimer's. It was mostly the older senior men. They were all, crazy. Jimmy Rogers.
Yeah, go ahead.
Alzheimer's, what were they? They were, but Downey's groups was Downey's Clownies, they used to call them. So we had the 4 different groups. The Alzheimer's, I forgot what Jimmy Rogers was. I can't think of it right now. But it was, at that time, when I first got there, everybody did straight tours. So we just, more or less stayed in
You always
groups.
worked the same, yeah.
Yeah. So I was between Vigiano and Downey in the groups.
Wow.
Me, Pete Martin were on the outside right there.
Do you ever pinch yourself? I mean, do you ever really pinch yourself? Like,
no,
just say to yourself, I mean, if you had to mention 2 guys on the job that if you had an opportunity to learn from.
Well, God, for Christ's sake, he was learning from Pritchard in 20.
I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, the first 2 years, I was like a new guy for 2 years there, for the amount of things I tried to learn from these guys. It was incredible, just here and there, not only the fire duty, but also all the tools we had to carry on the rig. One of the things.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I interrupted you. Apologize.
No, go ahead, Pete.
I was going to say, like, how did you feel on a day-to-day basis? Did you feel like you were always playing catch up, like, or was it like, did you ever find that like zone where you were like, all right, I'm in the pocket, and then the next day you figured out that you needed to learn something else, and you're like, oh, I'm not in the pocket? Like, how was that feeling of being a new guy all over again?
Yeah, I think for the first couple of years, you were a new guy for the amount of work, to really know the tools and know the rig and know the operations. I mean, because everything was completely different all the time. One of the things working with John Vigiano was, you're constantly drilling. When we worked the night tour, we worked the whole night tour. We were out all night. We would go from, job to job to job. Between jobs, we would stop in a vacant building and drill. We would find an ADV and drill with the Hearst tool, because we just got, a Hearst tool. Mm-hmm. And then during the day tours, the same thing. And one of the things John did with us, he would pull up to, say, an ADV, abandoned derelict vehicle. And he goes, okay, split us up into 2 teams, and of the guys. And he goes, okay, all the Hearst tool is out, all the electric tools are out. You got to extricate somebody from the car. How are you going to do it? And he would put us against each other. What tools we have left to, whether it be a handsaw, a hacksaw, or tin snips and things like that, just to learn, just in case something else breaks, what else do we have? And it was just a learning experience. And it wasn't just for me, it was everybody that was, trying something different at the time. It was good, a phenomenal learning experience working with John, because he was always thinking something different. It wasn't just the usual, let's use the Hearst tool, pop the door, we'll cut the
right, no, we're done.
And that's it.
Right.
He goes, no, we don't have a Hearst tool.
Right.
Yeah, how are you going to get somebody out of the car?
Yeah, because in the end, when you're in special operations, you have to fix things when things are going bad. Maybe not, other companies can pop a door, you know what I mean? Right. But it's when something shits the bed or something goes bad that you're there to fix the problem. So
exactly.
That's why he was that guy, you know what I mean? Because he thought about those things and taught those things all the time.
Right. And being a rescue too, we were, fire duty was there. We would dealing with tons of fires, but we were doing a lot of emergency work as well. You know, back in the day, I think Rescue 3 was the first one to have someone with their arm caught in a meat grinder. Oof. So, and at that time, the only tool they really had was a partner saw. So they wound up freeing the guy's arm with the partner saw from the meat grinder. So we used that as, you know, the job used that as learning experience. Like, what else can we use for something like that? So somebody came up with using like the whizzer saw, the handheld grinder type of thing. And maybe a couple months later, we get our first man with his arm in a grinder. You know, he had his up to his wrist in the grinder. So we had the whizzer tool at the time, and luckily we made the cuts. You know, taught by, you know, from Rescue 3. You know, what's the best way to cut the meat grinder, and what cuts to make with, you know, a partner saw. But we're using the whizzer saw, so it's made it a little bit easier. And then, you know, how to take the screw out, because, you know, once the arm goes in, then it L's down to the straight where usually the chop meat comes out.
Yeah.
It's like a worm tool.
Fork screw, yeah.
Fork screw. And usually his arm is all mashed up with that.
Yeah.
And you learn, you know, not to unwind it because it's acting like a tourniquet. So these are the things that we learn from each job, and we pass on to everybody else. Like, yes, what's the best way and what's the best tool? And a funny story with that is, you know, Danny wound up writing an article about the whizzer saw and the meat grinders. And maybe 6 months later, we had another meat grinder. This guy with the guy with his arm up to his elbow in the meat grinder. And we pull up, and shoe cops are there. And we walk in, there's those white peanuts all over the floor. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And we look up, and they're standing there with their brand new whizzer saw. Like, we'll here to help.
Just took it out of the box.
We didn't buy the compressor. Like, then get out of our way.
Yeah.
They were going to blow it into the hose.
Never practiced with it. Never did anything.
Yeah, exactly. But it's, you know, it's learning experience. And, you know, we had 2 whizzer saws at that time, so we made it a little bit quicker cuts, and then work with the paramedics and telling them what to expect and how we're going to take this guy's arm out, and let the doctors unwind it in the operating room. This way, if he bleeds out, at least they can control it and things like that.
Wow.
But it's
just, now everybody has a man in the machine kit.
I was just going to say that. How
that's from that, but that's how it morphed
to the
into
man
that.
Machine exactly. Kit, you have, you know, 25 tools in this kit now. You know?
I mean, our jobs.
Air hammers, right? Yeah, exactly.
We got special call to 37 one time. 112 was working. They had a printer with the printing wheels. The guy went to move the plate, and his hand got caught between the wheels, the stainless steel wheel. So he's up to his, you know, behind his wrist, and his whole hand was flattened into paper. So his stainless steel wheels, we're trying to figure out. 112 is like trying to take the machine apart, and they're saying, we're having problems with the machine. See if you can guys find another way. So we're looking with cutting with the Sawzall. It's not making anything. Going with the stainless steel rollers, trying to get this hand out. We couldn't get any airbags in there. Couldn't even get a wedge in there. That's how tight it was. Oof. So we wound up using a torch, and the engine had to stretch a line because all the paints and the thinners that were there, you know, we didn't want to light up the place either. So, you know, 112 was, you know, helping, trying to, you know, using their tools to give us some place to work, you know, so we can cut and get the rollers off the guy. So it's, you know, a lot of things that these are jobs that are first-time jobs. Now you have to pass on this information to everybody else,
right.
And use that as a learning experience.
Right.
So it's that's why you're always constantly learning.
SOC got good with that.
Yeah.
If you know, 41 had, you know, 41 or 3 or 2 or something happened, you know, they put something out and you would get it. Well, now in an email. But back in the day, you would, you know, those papers would get lost. You know, people would look at it, and you know, when they put it through the bag. But now everything is email, so you know, it's a little bit easier to pass the information along. You know, something like that is totally out of the ordinary. That in case it did happen, and anything for safety, you know, that happens a lot with the job as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Emails and stuff like that. Yeah,
back then we passed the word of mouth by, you know, when we got detailed to other companies or the offices we were covering. Right. You know, pass information that way.
What did you use to keep those rollers cool so they wouldn't heat up?
It was just, you know, trying to wet them with an extinguisher, you know, wrapping wet rags around it. It was just as much as we can, and working as slow as you can.
And now, you know, what's his name? Mark is teaching that, right? Him and Johnny too. I don't know if they're still doing that together, but I know that Mark was still doing. He does the man in the machine, right?
Yeah, basically from a ring cutter job to, you know, a man in a meat grinder. It's basically the same thing. Every job. I remember one job we had in Canarsie, there was a rock crusher. And they would take the big rocks, big boulders, put them into this top of this rock crusher. And they had 2 clams that would just like hit together and just crush the rocks. And the guy was up there feeding the rocks, and he slipped and he fell down. So what he has is 2 legs slipping out where the clam was. His 2 legs are just hanging out here. And we got in, the truck was there ready. They were working. They got the Hearst tool in there. They couldn't move anything. We got the airbags. We got the 45-ton airbags on both sides with legs. They wouldn't move at all. So we had the airbags, the Hearst tool, everything going on. The jaws wouldn't move at all.
Really?
So we wound up getting a high point on the guy to keep him up and not put all the pressure on him going down. So we tried to harness him around where we can get into his groin area, lift him up a little bit. But it took the 3 airbags, the Hearst tool, and probably something else that we had to just pry enough we had to squeeze his thighs together just to like push him up and get him out. So it doesn't matter what tool you have on a rig. A lot of times, all the tools you have, it's not going to work at all.
Sometimes you have to use multiple tools, right? Or multiple. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, every job is completely different, and every job you go to, especially as an officer too. I don't want to get ahead of myself with that, but you got to listen to the guys. A lot of guys, you're going to turn around and say, "What do you guys think?" I want opinions. Don't hold back. Let's start throwing things out.
You can't see everything.
Yeah.
Especially as an officer. I want guys to throw information at me, if they're seeing something I'm not seeing, of course.
Exactly. Even from other companies too. It's like
absolutely.
Guys from other companies saying, "Why don't you try this?" Like, yeah, I mean, we're not going anywhere with what we have right now, so we'll take any advice. So it was always good that way.
Who would you say you enjoyed in Rescue 2? Who you enjoyed working with? The most. I know, obviously, to pick somebody, but who do you think that you remember going to a lot of fires or competing with, or something like along those lines?
Probably, to put somebody on par with myself, probably Pete Martin, because we got there about the same time. Pete got there before I did, so he was from 123. We were good friends on duty and off duty, so families grew up together, type of thing. But Pete and I used to have a good competition. We were going back and forth, and who can go a little bit further, who can do this.
Yeah, that's good. That's why.
So it was good that way. And,
absolutely.
And it was funny because Pete and I were the ones, trying to keep all the stats in the company too. At the time, the officers come back, they would have pockets full of run tickets. And me and Pete would know how many runs we went through, how many jobs we went through tonight. And the next morning we wake up and we look in the book and they would put like half of them in. And we look at the garbage can, all the tickets are piled up in the garbage. And Pete's like, taking them out of the garbage, writing them in the book, making sure we get credit for them. But, the amount of work we did in Rescue 2 probably was never really documented because, some of the jobs we really didn't put into the book.
Really?
Oh, yeah. No
just
doubt
the way
about
it was.
Let's talk about a couple of photos you got here. Tell us about this one right here.
That was John. Lieutenant Fitch did this once before. He every New Year's Eve, not every year's, this is like the second or third one. On New Year's Eve, he would have Lee Aoki bring in all these Chiefs coats from the volleys. And New Year's Eve, we would run with these coats on. And we would go to the first job, and Vidge would walk into the chief and say, "Chief, Rescue 2 here, what can we do for you?" He goes, "By the way, we're testing these coats for safety. They want us to test these out, and they want us to get as much nozzle time as we can with the coats on." And the chiefs would look at him like, "You guys fucking kidding me?" And one or two chiefs was like, they weren't sure. They were like, go do what you need to do, type of thing. But other chiefs was like, either you stand fast or you just do your rescue work. And don't go near the line.
Yeah, right, exactly right.
But this New Year's Eve, we wound up with I think 3 or 4 all hands and 2 or 3 second alarms in a night tour. And it was good. Everybody was looking at us like, who are these guys? With the white coats on.
The white coat gang.
That's Mark Gregory right there, right? The second guy. Is that a young? Is that him?
No.
To the left.
Where, on the right?
On the second off the right. Who is
that? That's the chief of the department.
That's our chief of department. Tom
is
Richardson.
that him? Holy mackerel! Man.
Yep.
Yes, it is.
Richardson.
Look at him. Hold on.
Holy shit!
Look at him. That's definitely him.
He does look like Mark Gregory over there.
Holy.
What about who's the guy on the right?
That's Frank Johnson. He was another guy from 176 that got the rescue before I did. So it's Frank Johnson, 176. Tommy Richardson, 123.
Tommy Richardson. I can't even believe that's him.
Lee Ioppi, 227. the Vidge, myself 176, and Pete Martin
Pete
123.
Yeah, Pete Martin.
So it's all the 4-4 and the 3-8 battalion was working that night.
Wow.
Who the hell's standing in the back of the house watch over there?
That was 227. 227 was our neighbor down the block, and we got along great with them. And one of the things that Vidge did with all the guys, each roll call, he would assign somebody, to me. He would go, Mike, you got the drill today. I'm inviting 227 over. You hold the drill, and you drill with them on something. So it was a good learning experience for us and for me as the fireman.
Yeah.
To give a drill.
I can't believe how freaking young he looks there. Holy man!
And then 227 was there, like learning, whatever we taught them. It was great.
That's great, man. Yeah.
They got the Hearst tool, the airbags, and they were like, "This is great." They get to do something completely different.
How about this shot right here? There's this very special man in the middle there.
Yeah, that was the chauffeur at the time, Jack Kleehouse.
Wow.
That was at
there too, right?
Yeah, Terry Hatton. Downey was the officer, Al Steinhardt, and I think Lee Ioppi also was there. It was a telephone company fire in Bushwick. It was the wires were burning in the conduit. They had like rows of wires on platforms, like 10 deep, 10 high, maybe like 50 feet long. You had to go down each row and come back and forth, and all the wires are burning. They had us in there with the line. I think we went to a total like 46 bottles.
Wow.
For this one fire. I mean, we used every bottle in the rig with the 1 hour bottles, 45-minute bottles. And it just going back and forth to the line. We would just train, take turns on the line going up and down because you had to hump it down the aisle. Once you got to the end, somebody else came and relieved you. You went back, took a blow for a little while. They came back the other way, hitting the fire. And then you took it and you went back the other way. So we're there for about, 2 or 3 hours.
And that's before we had the lightweight bottles. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And it was funny, after that fire too, we went back to the firehouse and all our class, everything that was metal on us turned green. We had coins in our pocket that were all turned green.
That's not a good sign.
Yeah. Like when Dan Noonan talks about the telephone company fire in New York City, this is just like 1/100th of that and how bad it was.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Holy shit. What year is this, boss, around?
That has to be probably the late 80s, I think.
Wow. How about this one here?
That's us after a job, and during the crack epidemic in Brooklyn, there probably throughout the city, bodega fires were a common occurrence. Everything we walked up to was, a roaring fire in a bodega, whether it be a check cashing place or all plexiglass. This is right after a job. We had multiple 1045s. And Pete, if you can go to the one with the fire.
From R2, boom.
This is a job we pulled up to. We were going to another 1075, and Warren Fuchs was on the radio, and he gets on. He goes, Warren will get on radio and tells rescue, what's your location? We started getting dressed and putting our mask on because we know we're getting redirected. And this is the same case. We were going down to, I think, Flatbush. And Warren gets on, rescue, where's your location? And we say, we're on Eastern Parkway. He goes, make a right and head towards, I think Nostrand Avenue, 10-4. And we started getting dressed right away in the back of the rig because when Warren redirects you, you're going to something really bad.
Yeah. And I like how he tells you to make a right, make a left. Like he,
like he's sitting
in the rig
all the time.
He used to do that.
Did he do that in the Borough Fire?
Whoa!
Borough Fire.
That was for the chat that was getting awfully salty. They needed permission to
screw them.
But when you think about fire photos or the job, right? Like the way you have, I'm not a firefighter, but all these shows we've done, you guys have described it. When I think of a job, this is what I would think right here. This picture. Yeah, I mean, look at that.
You can see it. They usually can't. Who was that in there, Lou?
That was, I don't know if the part of the floor above team going above, 230, 280, 132 were first due, 123, 234. But we got reports, you aren't saying, the reports of people trapped in the back of the store. So this is what 280 was kneeling down facing while they're waiting for water.
Wow.
And everybody's standing right behind them because we weren't going anywhere with this much fire coming out of the store. They wound up pulling about 11 people out of the floor above in the top floors.
Wow.
And as soon as 280 started hitting the water, the fire with the water, they're doing a great job moving in. We wound up, as soon as they knocked down the majority of the fire, me and Lee and guys from 132 went on both sides, and we're going down the aisle, get to the rear of the store. Get to the rear of the store, we start, hitting the bodies. Lee found one, I found one. The guys from 132 found the other two. We pull them out. We start working on them on the sidewalk. And one of the guys I was working on, we noticed as we're doing compressions, there's blood coming out of his stomach. So we take the rest of his clothes off. And this guy was shot like 3 or 4 times in his stomach.
Oh, okay.
So look over, the other guy.
Next.
Sadly, right?
Right. The other guy they were working on too. He was shot in the chest. So they were like, I don't know if we can do any more here. The other 2 people weren't shot at all, but they wound up making it. So it was good that way. But it was amount of fire. 280 did a phenomenal job knocking it down right away. I mean, they did a great job. The people in the store itself, after the fire, we were trying to figure out what the hell was going on. In the back of the store was tons of drugs, all crack, a couple of Uzis or automatic weapons laying all over the floor. It was like, and unfortunately, a lot of times, during crack, this is the picture we pulled up all the time, throughout not only us but throughout the city. Yeah. This is the amount of fire with the amount of gasoline they were using at that time to just torch the place, do their crime, shoot, kill somebody. And that was it. They were just torch the place.
Out of curiosity, did a couple of those Uzis make it home with you? Just as, I don't know, they're not functional, of course. I'm just
no. Believe me, I wish they would have.
You know who actually said the same thing when we had Lois on? She said when she was at 235, she said same thing. Bodegas, check cashing places, stuff like that with the bulletproof glass. They were going to jobs like that all the time, she said.
Yeah. What they would do is, especially in the check cashier places with the Lexan and everything, they usually just had a little slot where they push the checks out to. They would just pour the gasoline in there and tell them, "Give me the money, or I'm going to light it," and they would hold a lighter.
Right.
And the same thing, just touch it, and then we're trying to get through the plexiglass and everything else.
Yeah.
If they had the escape hatch in the back of the store, what they usually had, they weren't going nowhere because usually had a little trap door underneath the plexiglass.
Right. I hate to interrupt, but Garrett Lindgren in the chat is saying that gasoline was much cheaper back then.
Yeah.
Boys, I think we need to move on to the next.
I did this.
Oh, yeah, I did this. Yeah. Now it costs you a whole $5 to burn.
Yeah, the good old days with crack and bodegas. Good for the fire service.
Exactly. Our job we had in Eastern Parkway, we were going to 123, 234, first to 132 for a stove explosion and a 6-story walk-up. So I'm like, all right, stove explosion, couple of calls on it. So we pull up. People are outside looking around. Nobody knows where the explosion came from. So we go up to the 3rd floor. Chief goes to 123, go up to the upper floors, see what we can do. 132, working on the door, pops the door. Door swings open. We're standing right behind him. And all of a sudden, a little bit of whiff of smoke comes out of the apartment. And the door opens up, and there's a guy running around the apartment and blood everywhere. The blood on the walls, ceiling, the walls, floor, everything. And he has one arm is missing. His chest is wide open.
Shit.
So we're like, holy shit. We get him. We almost had to tackle him to put him down.
Holy shit.
Us in 132 were working on him. We call for the trauma kit and everything else. And we get the guy down. We start working on him, start stopping the blood from flowing out of his missing arm and everything. And one of the guys from 132 looks around. He goes, "Nobody move." So we're like, "Why not?" He goes, "Nobody move. Look around." There was all unexploded pipe bombs all around the floor.
No.
This guy was making pipe bombs on a table in an occupied building on the 4th floor. And one went off, I guess, screwing a cap on, blew him up pieces. And now the chief comes in, he goes, "Okay, 132, get out of here, let rescue, you go there, stay here with the guy." So we're looking like, why us?
132, get out. 132, clean this shit up, all right?
Hey, listen,
we're like trying to work on this guy, keep him from moving, and we're not trying to move. And you look around, all the pipe bombs are just laying there. So it's like, we're trying to package this guy. MEMS comes up with the Stokes, and they're like, "Come on in with the Stokes." They're like, "No." It's like, "Well, give us a Stokes basket." So we wound up getting the guy in the Stokes basket, packaging him up, get him out of the apartment. We gingerly walk out, stepping over all the stuff and everything else. But it was just one of those odd things. You go to a stove explosion in a building and find out it's a bomb factory.
Yeah.
And people living above and below on both sides of them. That these guys in the crack wars are just They don't care. There's all drug labs and just fighting the crack wars with the other dealers, and that was it.
I think that chief, when he probably said something like, "Yeah, I remember that New Year's Eve nozzle bullshit, right? You guys get the fuck out now." Yeah, 132, get out, rescue 2, you got it.
Yeah,
I'll give you a nozzle.
Can't have all the gravy.
Yeah. All right, let's move over to Rescue 1 then. So you're there. You're in R2 for quite 9 years. And then you go do a silly thing like get promoted.
Yep.
7 of 95, you get promoted. And, this isn't. Oh, actually, you go to 44, the 44th Battalion, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Get promoted was.
In the borough.
Yeah, imagine that.
Jimmy Rogers was a lieutenant. He got promoted to captain, and he was covering. And he called me up to the office one day, and had probably about 6 or 7 years in the rescue at the time. He goes, "What are you doing here?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, he goes, "Are you studying?" I said, "No, I like being here. I don't want to study." And he goes, "You got to look at it like this." He goes, "You've been here for 6 or 7 years now. You go into the same fires, the same buildings, this and that." He goes, "You got to spread your experience out a little bit and learn different things." He goes, he equated. He goes, "You go into the same movie theater and watching the same movie over and over again." And he got me thinking, yeah, you're probably right. It's there's nothing different that we're not going to go to something tomorrow. So that got me into studying, and my study group was Dennis Murphy, Frank Johnson, Tommy Richardson. And you can tell I wasn't the smartest one in the group because they're all captains.
One guy's chief of department, one guy's captain.
Yeah. So that was the study group that we started in the firehouse, and then in the basement of each one of our houses each month. So got promoted and went to the 4-4, which was a home run.
Yeah. So you're bouncing around there. So how does Rescue 1 come a calling? How'd that happen?
I was bouncing to 4-4. At that time, the 15th Division acquired the 4-7 Battalion. So out in Rockaway. So I was bouncing around. Probably citywide in the first couple of months. It was each borough filling spots. Lou, you know how that is, and bouncing from place to place just to go somewhere. And then a spot opened up in 265 engine out in Rockaway with 137 truck. Justifications, you interested? I said, sure. It's a home run for traveling and commute. Went out there, good bunch of guys. Most of the guys live in the area or came from busy companies just to hang out there and catch some work. A lot of projects, but it was nothing different when we had in 176. And spent some time there. That vacation ended, and I went back to bouncing a little bit. And then a spot opened up in 233 engine in 176, and went there for a couple months. And at that time, I went to see Downey. I called up Downey. I said, interested in coming back to SOC. What do you think? He goes, yeah, we'll come by. He goes, bring a resume. Stop by SOC and come see me. I said, all right. So I put on my Class A's. Got my whatever resume I had. Went, worked in this place. Went to a lot of fires and did a lot of things on one piece of paper. And went to see Downey. And as I walked into SOC, everybody's looking at me like, "What are you doing in uniform?" I said, "Well, I'm coming to see Downey about maybe coming back to SOC." He goes, "You were his chauffeur for like 4 years." I said, "It doesn't matter. I'm still want to show the man respect and do the right thing."
You're good. You're good.
But it's the same thing. It's like he wants me to come down. There's a reason he wants you to come down. He wants people to see it, and that everybody has to go through the same process. So I respected that. And I said, interested to come back to SOC. He goes, all right. He goes, let me see what happens. He goes, where are you now? I said, it's covered in 233. And if I wasn't going to get back into SOC, I was just going to stay in 233. I spoke to the captain there, and he's, you mind if if the spot opens up, I'd like to, put in for it. He goes, yeah, no problem. I'd like to have you. And I was getting to the point where, nothing open in SOC. I was just going to stay in 233. And at that time, one of the lieutenants, I forgot his name, but he wound up retiring, and Rescue 1 wasn't planned or anything. He just, got out. And at that time, John Norman was the captain of Rescue 1. So he gave me a call. He goes, what are you doing? I said, just hanging out in 233 here, biding my time and, see what's happening. He goes, you'd be interested in coming to Manhattan? I said, where in Manhattan? He goes, Rescue 1. I said, definitely. I said, when do you want me there, tomorrow type of thing? And he goes, let me see if I can talk to Downey, see if I get you. You have to come into SOC first as a formality. Be assigned to SOC before you're assigned to a rescue company type of thing. So he said, sure. I said,
because there's going to be guys bouncing.
Already. Yeah, exactly.
That would be good for that spot, obviously. That's always a tough spot there.
Exactly, and like I said, Downey is doing everything as much by the books as he can. Where he's probably bending the rules a little bit, but he's still doing it the way it should be done, type of thing.
Yeah.
So, but he goes, let me get what's in. So I wound up getting detailed to Rescue 1 while being assigned to SOC, and then until the order came out, next order came out, I get assigned to Rescue 1.
Wow.
Which was a home run for me.
Hold on, I just got to say this. I just saw it in the chat. Bobby Song 283 said, "I like the movie a lot." 25 years he did it. 283. Like before, you said, it's like looking at the same movie. You're gonna get the same thing after. So
if you like the movie, it's great.
That's it. Exactly.
I wanted something a little bit different, and
no doubt.
Going to Manhattan, working in 20 truck in Manhattan was one thing. Mm-hmm. One of the key takeaways in 20 truck, one of the biggest things I learned in 20 truck, there was a lot of loft buildings, and loft buildings, high ceilings, right? You have one continuous staircase up to the top floor with all doors on each level. So you're going to a floor above, you're going to get your ass kicked. And one of the things with the high ceilings, 15, 20-foot ceilings, the guys who come in and drill with me, and the senior guys are like, the inside team goes in, one guy stands at the door. I said, you just kneel down at the door and just tell you what's going on. He goes, no, you stand up in the doorway. I said, why would you stand up in the doorway? He goes, because of the 20-foot ceilings. He goes, if you're standing up in a doorway, and if you feel the heat, he says, that's your time to start yelling at us to get out. Because if you can feel it at 6 foot, 6 foot tall, 7 foot doorway, and it's getting hot, and you can't stand up. He goes, we don't have a chance.
2 foot.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Yeah, I never thought of that. Yeah, man. That's
So that was something that stuck with me, coming into Manhattan now and working down there. And loft buildings are a horror. When George Lerner, Ladder 6, was killed, it was a loft building. With all the steel shutters and everything else. And,
I think I had just come off. I think I was either just off probation. When did he pass away? 94, 95?
Yeah. 95. Yeah, 94, because it was right before I got promoted.
Yeah, I had just come off probation.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the same thing. It was just one of those.
Sub-seller thing, right? He was a sub-seller. And
yes, sub-seller. They're crazy. I mean, we got called one time in 20 truck to go back a little bit. The chief calls up. He goes, you have a occupancy problem in one of the loft buildings on Worcester Street. Go check it out. So we go down, go into the building, go to the first floor, nothing going on, and we hear noise coming from the basement. We go down to the basement, down to the nothing, down to the cellar, and there was a whole gigantic nightclub going on. They had a band down there. There were probably about 500 people.
Holy shit!
This in the subcellar with only one stairs coming out. Woo. And we're like looking, going, get out. Everybody's like, get out. They said, get the police here right away. Evacuate the entire building. It's just the way things were in those strange buildings. It's like you never know what to expect. I mean, here you are in a subcell, like 20 feet below ground, and there's 5 people, one exit.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Never
just crazy.
They're not thinking about it until it's time to think about it.
Yeah.
So other than the obvious difference building types between Brooklyn and Manhattan, what are some of the other differences between the two rescues that you could point out that?
Well, Lou hit this on earlier. It's like there's 5 different fire departments in New York City. Each borough is a different way of operating. Brooklyn is very aggressive, a lot of fire duty. Manhattan, a little less fire duty, but when you catch something, it's going to be you really have your head on straight, because it's not going into a brownstone or a row frame where you go 40 feet and you full out a window. You're going 200 or 300 feet into a building before you even find a fire. So you have to slow down a little bit. You have to get your act together. The main thing is sticking with your SOP, your positions. Everything's going to be completely different. Everything it changes constantly. What you think is I didn't work it, but they said one of the fires at the Empire State Building, there were two sets of glass doors where the fire was. Wire fire was behind them. They were in the lobby now, getting messed up, waiting for the line of charge. The first doors failed from the fire. Now the second glass doors failed from the fire. Now everybody's asses and elbows because now the fire's over their heads into the hallway. So there's a lot of strange things that happen in Manhattan that you have to really, keep your head on a swivel with. And it's extremely challenging. And it's, coming from Brooklyn, Patty O'Keefe, where I went to probie school with, was from 35 Truck, was in Rescue 1, one of the senior guys there. He goes, "Oh, welcome to Manhattan." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You wait and see."
You'll know.
And, first job we get to is we got called for a gas meter on the Upper East Side. So we go there. This is probably my first run as lieutenant in Rescue 1. And Patty's working. He's giggling. I'm like, "What the hell are you laughing at?" He goes, You'll see. We pull up, go up to the floor, and there's a chief right at the doorway. He goes,
"Get up
we got
there.
a motor of gas here. We got the meters here. We don't know what's going on. Can you help me out?" I said, "Sure." I go to walk in. The chief puts his hand on my chest. He goes, "Whoa, 1 second." I go, "What, Chief? What do you need?" He goes, "You have to take off your boots." I said, "What?" He goes, "You have to take off your boots." I said, you want me to go in and check?" He goes, "Yeah, but the woman wants you to take off your boots. She doesn't want you to find them walking on her rugs. They're worth millions of dollars." And I turned to Patty. He goes, "Welcome to Manhattan."
Oh my God! I never heard that.
Wow.
So we took off our boots and walked in with our meters, did our thing, came back, put our boots back on.
Wow.
Holy shit.
So meanwhile, the bottom of your bunker gear is dragging on the rug.
Yeah, exactly.
That was fine.
And we smelled like smoke and everything else.
Right on.
Before I forget, Mike, Joel Kanaski was in the chat. He mentioned to say hello.
Nice.
Oh,
Thanks.
Joe was a great guy, very fine, very knowledgeable. Joe was one of the guys that if you need to turn around to at any job and say, "What do you think?" And he'll just size it up and give you a good estimate of what needs to be done. You got guys like, Patty O'Keefe, Gary Guidell, Cash, Joel, all these guys, Billy Henry. They were a wealth of information. They all tradesmen. So, they were all experts in different things. Patty O'Keefe with ropes and things like that, rigging. He was a man to turn to.
I remember him. I remember working with him there. I worked a few tours there as a fireman.
Exactly. We had a wall collapse, a brick veneer on the 15th floor. The whole veneer came off and went into a netting that was supporting it, keeping the pedestrians safe. So 40 by 30 section of bricks came into this netting now. Now the netting's still 20 stories above the street. All the bricks are in there. So we go inside and we're looking like, two guard wires holding this whole netting on now. So I turned to Patty. I said, "What do you think?" He goes, "We got to get the grip hoist up here right away." So we went, got guys brought up the grip hoist, got the grip hoist. We made some turns around the I-beams in the building, tied off the netting, got the grip hoist on to steady everything. And it was just one of those things where, Patty's like going from grip hoist, tying off ropes, tying off knots. He had the guys doing everything. It was like just the way he was. It was phenomenal.
He was a big dude, I remember, right?
Yeah. Big, strong, very knowledgeable, very funny, very down to earth, but he knew his stuff, like most of the senior guys in Rescue 1, because you had to think, and it wasn't like, nobody had tunnel vision. You couldn't have tunnel vision in Manhattan because there's so many different things going on.
Right.
Was Big Al there at that time?
Benjamin?
Yeah.
Yeah, the mayor of Manhattan was there.
You've been trying to get the mayor of Manhattan on the show for a while now.
Oh, yeah?
We got to get him on there. Give him a tickle.
Yeah.
Talk to him.
Give him a little tickle.
I will.
So you were there when Terry Hatton got there?
Yeah. John Norman got promoted to chief, battalion chief. And then Terry came over. And it was myself, Terry from Rescue 2, Dennis Mojica from Rescue 2, and John Cannon from Rescue 2.
Oh, shit.
You worked with Kenny Marino, too, then?
Yeah. Kenny
was from 117 with me, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, another great guy.
So then Hatton had to be much like the Vig, always 24/7 going, right? You had to be used to that with the Vig. Yeah.
And it was funny because when Terry first got there, like every officer's reputation precedes him, and everybody's like, "Oh, Terry, I don't know." He's like, we don't know what type of officer he's going to be. Probably about 6 months later, the guys in his groups would probably kill for him. It's like, walking around protecting him.
And you guys were firemen together.
Yeah. Yeah. All of us, all the officers were firemen together.
Oh, that's right. Mojica was there too, right? Yeah. Holy mackerel.
Yeah. So it was good that way. But Terry came in with a whole different vision. He was like,
great.
We all been to fires, but we haven't been to all the emergencies. So we got to learn all the emergencies. And he was very much into. He would buy the New York Times on Sunday and go to the real estate section and find out what buildings were being written about, what type of different construction it was, and pass on the information.
Wow.
Just to get people the mindset into looking for emergencies in building collapses, scaffolding events, cranes. All the cranes are going up in Manhattan. It's construction. What can we do? So it got us going, and we wound up with a crane accident right on 43rd Street between like 7th and 8th Avenue during the daytime. It was a 20-story crane elevator going up, and it detached from the building, and the top section, the crane came off, fell across the street. The counterweight went in the middle of 43rd Street and sunk into the ground. The basket went across the street and crushed the building across the street. So we got there right away. 9th Battalion was there. And Chief Nardone was like, what do you think? I said, let's get a 1060 in here and let's get some more companies in here, special operations. And we went up with Patty and the rest of the guys, and we started tying off the rest of the crane that was standing there, the box cribbing, and tying off, grab some of the construction workers to, give us a hand with some of this shoring and everything, getting things tied off. And we were there for a couple of hours trying to get us secure as much as we can. Rescue the rescues came in. I think Rescue 3 went across the street to the other building, and there was one woman that was killed by the rest of the crane.
Yep.
It was just one of those things. It was 20-story crane, and now it's laying crossway across the middle of Manhattan during the middle of the afternoon.
Now, you know what was crazy, Mike? After that seemed to happen all the time. Like, after that one instance, all right, it happened, but not. Yeah. It seemed like it was always happening. Then after that, like they actually changed the rules and stuff like that, right? I remember, and it just seemed like it was always a crane incident, at least once or twice a year.
Yeah, exactly.
After that,
And that was what the worst part about that is. You had all the special operations units there, SOC, rescues and squads, 24 hours a day on the roof of the building.
I remember that. We had to do that.
That was horrible.
That was horrible.
Picture Petey Brennan on top of that roof,
yes,
remember?
I remember that. That was when we were a couple of stories down and they had all the insulation there. I remember that. Just became, had to be 98 or 99. We had just
exactly
the squads. That was torture. I hated it.
You had to babysit them all.
Yes, that was horrible.
Yeah.
You know what I want to ask you quick? Were you guys doing the, when you had the scaffolds, were you guys cutting the glass at that time? Like, were you guys had the tape, or was that something that evolved later on, like cutting the glass from the inside, to get to the guys?
We just started with that, with the taping and the cutting. We wound up using similar to like the Wizard sword, cutting the with a carbide tip. It wound up evolving into diamond blades and things like that.
Right.
Luckily, that in Manhattan, you had an opportunity, especially with Terry. He had a lot of connections with the vendors, and we would test a lot of tools. One of the tools we tested was a plasma cutter, similar to a torch. And a lot of the duct fires in Midtown Manhattan, the restaurants, you wind up putting your Halligan in, trying to rip apart the tin ductwork. So at least with the plasma cutter, we can go up there and just cut holes in there really quick and get a line up there. So, different tools like that, Terry was able to get us on. One of the things he tried was a search line that lit up. I don't know if it ever evolved from that.
Yeah, I've seen that before. Yeah,
we would stretch it out. It would have like LED lights embedded in it.
Yeah. I've seen that before. I actually blinked it in the way to get out. All
exactly.
That
so there's a lot of things that guys were into this magazines and things like that saw different ads like, let's call this vendor, see if we can at least try it. And they would just drop something off the Firehouse.
I always say all the time, the best gold room on the job.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It didn't hurt that it was his wife or his fiance worked for Giuliani or something like that.
Yes,
That didn't
secretary or something, right? Yeah.
I want to ask you one question about him. Like, he was a guy who saw the big picture, right? He saw what other people didn't see. Like, he really saw the job as the big picture. Do you think he would eventually have taken over Downey's job as somebody who's running SOC? Because that's been bantered about a lot, that he would have been the next Downey.
Yeah, I think so. I think he had the vision. Downey had his vision. Downey evolved. When we first got in, when we left rescue left the 3-1 battalion, we started just battalions. We were in the 5-7 battalion with 111, 235, 230, 240, 14. then he developed the rescue liaison, 13 David, where the former rescue officers would become captains, and be the liaisons to the chief, and then eventually turned into rescue services, and then into SOC. So, Downey's vision was, building that capability going forward. I think Terry would have been just continuing that, and building that. I think, Terry's vision was getting more into the technical aspects of rescue, very much into the urban search and rescue task force with the collapse rescue and things like that. He was on the different committees for tools and operations and procedures. So I think Terry eventually would have been, gravitating towards that position.
Right. Pete, I think we have some pictures of Hatton and the lieutenant here at one of those. Right? Don't you have a picture of the, not the FEMA team, but you were on
the urban search and rescue?
The urban search and rescue. Yeah.
That I do have. Just keep going, guys. I'll pull it up.
Our team started, by Downey. We started probably in '86, where Downey got a connection with the State Department. That there was a collapse in some country overseas in Europe. That the State Department says, what's your capability? Got in touch with Downey, and he started saying, get ready, we might get deployed to whatever country it was. And that's how the urban search and rescue teams started being formed.
Wow.
With Downey and the task force.
Well,
this picture here is we did a standby for the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta. They had 3 teams doing 1-week rotations while the Olympic Games were going on. So they had, the rescue team, the urban search and rescue teams were made up between the PD, EMS at the time, and fire department. So we split it up.
This is Jordan on the right?
Joe Jordan, Terry Hatton to the left of him.
Was that the year that the Olympics was bombed in Atlanta?
Yep. We got there that day. We were setting up camp, and the team we were leaving, I forgot what it was. I don't know if it was Massachusetts Task Force, whatever. They're saying, this is boring. There's nothing going on. Just be prepared. It's like, all right, typical. So we start, moving on to our stuff, getting our equipment ready. And we get the orientation. We had a couple of helicopters on standby for us through the National Guard should anything happen. And that night, we're just laying in bed, and all of a sudden the siren goes off. And everybody's like, what the hell is that? And we get up. The task force leaders run over to the operations center and say, what's going on? They said a bomb just went off at the Olympics. So like, okay, let's start suiting up. We get ready. Start moving, getting the stuff together, getting reports in. It was just, no collapse, just a bomb with injuries. So we had, at the time, as part of the task force, we had doctors and paramedics. So Danny says, we get the helicopter, we get the doctors and paramedics over there, and they call up the emergency management or the police department at the time. And the government liaison was like, they don't want you. They don't want anybody, flying overhead in black helicopters with no markings and jumping out with BDUs on and not knowing who you are, type of thing. It will upset the first responders on the scene. So we're like, okay, we're just, then they stood down. But that was the first night we were there. It was the first night of the bombing. The rest of it was, nothing else going on. But it was just, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So got that shirt?
Yeah. It's hanging somewhere in the closet.
I got one. I got mine in my closet too.
Yeah. But each time we got deployed. Olympics. They went to Puerto Rico. We got deployed to the Dominican Republic 1 year for hurricanes. Then they went out to Oklahoma City. So, and then Oklahoma City was the start of it, and then the other collapses down in Mexico and stuff like that, where that was the main focus of the urban search and rescue was collapse rescue. What we did for hurricanes was not really what it was meant for. It was more rescuing people in collapsed structures, and they wound up doing a lot more later on. When I left the job, that were more successful with rescuing people in collapsed situations.
So let's before we because we're getting a little late, let's talk about. Do you want to brush up on 9/11 at all? Because we have some pictures of the rig and stuff like that.
Just it's good remembrance, as we always do with the guys we lost. That everybody was remembrance. And one of the things going back to a lot of guys, my probate school, Jerry Walsh and Jim Rossi, 2 guys in my squad that were also lost from the cancer from 9/11. We lost them, as well as my carpool partner from Brentwood, Vinny Ongaro, that we went to boarding school together.
That was my guy.
Yeah.
My boy,
So,
my buddy.
We, went to the same high school.
That's rescue one going down.
That's why they have good hair, Coobs. Because
is that what it is? Something out in the water out in Brentwood.
Had the pet. That's what it is. Definitely, both of them have good hair. That's son of a gun.
This picture was taken by a news photographer, Dave Hantush, I believe. He was following the rescue on the West Side Highway going down. Just after the first plane just went into the building.
Doug Hantush. I thought he was in Rescue 3.
There is a Doug Hantush.
I know.
But I'm trying to think of, I'm not probably mispronouncing his name for, Daily News, but
so Mike, just a quick thing. How did you were off that day, obviously?
Dennis we got the first half of the mutual. Yeah. I was coming in for the night tour, so just at home that morning. Wound up, jumping on. Figured I couldn't drive in. It was, it was going to be all packed. Jumped on the Long Island Railroad, hooked up with John Noman. He got on a couple stations later. They took us into. They wouldn't go further than Flatbush Avenue, so we jumped out of Flatbush Avenue. Some guy in a pickup truck stopped, picked us up because he saw the uniforms. Took us down to Tillery Street where they're doing a staging area, and there was companies just moving out to the Trade Center at the time. So we jumped on the back of the rig. And I jumped on the back of the rig, and I didn't notice the company or anything. And the guy looks out from the front of the cab. It was my brother-in-law. He looked at me. I looked at him. I said, "Oh, good."
Wow, really?
Yeah. And nobody knew that until like years later because we never really mentioned it or anything. But it was just one of those things. So I just happened to jump on his rig as he was going there.
Wow.
So and we got there just after the second building collapsed, and just like everybody else did what we had to do.
Yeah. So Pete, you got the picture of the guys? I think he sent the picture of the guys that they lost too on that day.
Yeah. A ton of seniority. Joey Angelini.
Oh my God, we didn't.
Joey Angelini was named Mr. Magoo in the Firehouse.
Mr. Magoo.
He was. You ever see the cartoons where a building would fall down and the window he would be standing right in the window where it fell. We had a fire.
Safe all the time, right?
We had a fire in the cellar on 6th Avenue in probably around 31st Street. Got down, fire was in the basement. We got down with the camera with the engine company. I couldn't see anything with the camera. There was a lot of heat. The guys at the top of the stairs saying, stop backing out. It's starting to come over your head. I said, it was boxes of boxes up to the ceiling. We couldn't see anything. So the engine company, I said, let's get out of here. Engine company pulled out. We pulled out. We wound up with an exterior attack. They were there all day long. It was in the morning. That night we went back. The chief called us back. He goes, Mike, would you mind showing me where you guys went into the basement? I want to try to find out the origin of the fire. So I took him down to the basement. I told the guys, stand here. I said, the building was all burnt out now. It was 4 stories. It was a mess. It was like a vacant building now. I said, don't go near the building. The chief said it's unsafe. Nobody do anything. Just stand here. Go down to the basement with the chief. Go down, show him where the fire was and everything else. He goes, you guys are very lucky. You guys could have got caught down here very quick, very easily. So we come out, we're talking. As I'm walking with the chief, I come down the side street and we go to turn on the avenue. And out of the corner of my eye, I see on the first floor of the building, Joe Angelini looking for his tool that he left, his Halligan left it. I'm like, I'm trying to block the chief so he wouldn't see Joe in the building. And I'm trying to get my guys to get Joe out of there. And they're looking so they finally get Joe out, and the chief happens to see him walk out of the building. What is he doing in the building? Dangerous. That could fall at any second. And Joe comes out and he goes, no, it's safe. He jumps up and down the floor. And I'm going, oh my God, I'm going to get fired right here on the spot. So Joe, let's get out of here, get on the rig. So the tower ladder is operating. So we get on the rig. I said, let's go back to the firehouse. We got about 3 blocks and over to handy talkies, 7 truck to 7. I think this building's going to come down now. They start backing people away from the building. And sure enough, the whole building collapsed. We're about 3 blocks away. Kevin Ford is driving me. He looks over. He goes, "You want to go back?" I said, "No." I said, "Let's go back to the firehouse. We're locking the doors. We're not coming out until the morning." That was Joe. He was just,
Did he have a cigarette in his mouth at the time?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
He never saw him without a cigarette. You couldn't take a tool away from him.
Mm.
You couldn't. He would get off the rig with the roof rope, the saw, a Halligan, a hook, an axe, and just you couldn't do anything to him. you couldn't wrestle a tool away from him.
That
was
the
like
first
a wind-up doll. You would wind him up and just put him towards the building. He'd go into the building, put it out.
And he wasn't a big guy. He was like he was a frail looking older guy.
Yeah, no, he was.
Yeah.
I remember that picture.
20 years.
That picture that you had up there. That picture is what I remember.
The picture of the rig.
Yeah, that was the first rig I saw.
I was under the bridge, I think, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Well, after the 1993, Terry had a thing that, if we have anything else at the trade center, park underneath the bridge, because if the windows come out, they won't damage the rig.
Oh, yeah.
So unfortunately, the rest of the building came down with the window.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's what, the SOP we had is, park the rig under the, because 93 when we pulled up, the window panes were flying out of the building. It was incredible.
Amazing.
But, Joey was a tough fireman. Joey was,
yeah.
He would just come out. First thing you do, light up a cigarette.
Yeah, no, I remember.
Overhaul, and he would have a cigarette in his mouth.
Don't build them like that anymore. That's for sure.
No. And he did 20 years in ladder one before he came to the rescue.
Oh my God!
So you think of yourself with 20 years on a job, like I want to go to the rescue now.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I want. Most guys want to go like I don't know, like out east somewhere, or
exactly.
He wants to go to rescue one with 20 years on the job.
I still can't get over the fact that you guys were all firemen together. Like to have that happen where you're all officers.
All the officers.
That's a really cool thing. I wonder
man.
how often that's happened. I bet you that hasn't happened that much. In other places, to be in a totally different company and have the same four guys.
Yeah.
Maybe one guy, you call the guy up and say, hey, listen, come on over. I got a spot for you because I know him. But to have four guys over there, that's a little weird, That must have been good.
Yeah. Good times.
We knew each other. We knew we operated. We were all on the same page. So cool. Anything that had to get done, it was good. It was just an experience, when I worked with John Cannon and relieved him. It was something always challenging. One day, came in for the day tour. John comes back. They come back from a second alarm. John pulls up the rig, jumps out of the rig. He goes, "You ready to ride?" I said, "Yeah, I'm ready to ride. You have to go somewhere." He goes, "Yeah, I got to go." And he goes upstairs, change, runs past me, shoots out his car, and leaves. So now we're sitting in the kitchen. Maybe about 10 minutes later, guy at the house watch says, "Deputies in quarters. He wants everybody out front." Walk out front, roll up, do a roll call. Everybody's lined up. And he starts berating me. If I ever tell you to do something again, you better listen to me. At the last job, I told you to do this. You didn't do it. You didn't listen to me. I'm like, time out, Chief. I said, I just came on duty. I said, I wasn't there.
It's the other guy.
Yeah. The guy that had a car down there at the light, that's him.
Yeah. Guy that left there like he was caught in a
like his hair was on fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He knew he was coming. He knew
he was gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, good shit. All right, Pete, is it getting close to that time, my man?
Oh, you guys know the deal. It is that time. It's time for the old school tip of the day. Take it away, Mike.
All right. One of the things that I went through my career with is all new equipment coming on board and learning how to use it and getting away from the old school tactics. Whether it be coming from the Hearst tool to thermal imaging camera to whatever. And the way I see today, although I didn't operate as much with the thermal imaging camera, I see it a lot more today, and I see a lot more people dependent on it. And hopefully they're training the guys with them to make sure when they conduct searches, they're not just depending on that camera to work all the time. And they're actually following the old school way of making sure you have way in, way out, knowing where you are in the apartment, following the wall, and not really depending all the time, looking through that camera and seeing everything. That one time when that camera does go out of batteries or dies or whatever, you're going to be there by yourself. Hopefully, you know how you came in, you know how you come out. One of the things I would suggest to everybody is make sure you drill and drill all the different opportunities to, do a search, whether it be with a search line, without a camera, working your way along the walls. Don't always depend on technology. It's a great tool when you have it. When it works, it's phenomenal. But it doesn't, make sure you're prepared. So that's a tip I like to leave everyone today.
That's perfect.
Beautiful.
We used to say that all the time, Mike. Right? Same thing with the rabbit tool. Right?
Yeah.
You don't practice forcing the door with the meat hooks, then when the rabbit tool shits the bed, the hydraulics or something, then or the bunny tool, whatever it was. How many times did the bunny tool? You see the guys, they go over there and they start using the bunny tool, and it's not working for whatever reason. And
exactly,
you have to do it. So, but searching definitely, without a doubt.
I can only imagine. The more and more people that carry the thermal imaging camera, they're very relying on that, and going around is. They probably wouldn't even know where the walls are. Never mind.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. 1,000% you off. 1,000% correct. Yep. And as soon as that goes dark, then what? You know what I mean? If you haven't been paying attention to where the couch is and where the window was and where the table was, and getting your way back, you're good as dead, basically.
Yeah, always rely on old school tactics. They work for many, many years, and always have that. Make sure you know how to use it.
No, absolutely. That's a great tip, man.
Yep.
Great tip.
Old school tip of the day. Old school tactics. I like it. Beautiful.
All right,
Lieutenant. Thank you for coming on. Thoroughly enjoyed the show.
Well done.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Great career. Great stories. Love it. Awesome. Ruffy, do you have any shout outs or anything you'd like to say?
No, I don't know how Mike puts his head on the pillow at night. I don't know what the hell he's thinking.
I don't know, man. All those years. Didn't do anything. Jesus, Christmas.
Shit. I don't feel so good about me. That's all I know. Holy mackerel.
What about you, Peter Peets? Any shout outs for you, brother? Nothing.
Shout outs for me tonight, boys. Just stay safe out
Lou,
there.
do you want to give anybody
Merry Christmas, happy holidays.
Oh, we're not there yet. You got anybody you want to give a shout out to tonight, Lou?
No, I just like I said, remember all the guys that we all worked with in 9/11, all the guys that passed after 9/11, that are still suffering today. We wish them all well, and good road ahead. We can always keep our fingers crossed.
And for all the guys who were down there, spent any time there, make sure you go see Mr. Dr. Brown and get yourself checked out. You need to get early detection. We're going to have a show on early detection. So
from the neck up. Mike, you know that Tilly Geidel is in the chat a lot of times. I think she's in the chat tonight.
Oh, good. I finally met Tilly. I always saw her at the Christmas parties when she was a lot younger. And this past 9/11 ceremony, she came down to the Firehouse, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
She was a little bit nervous at first, but I think she left with a good, a good opportunity to really get to know her father a little bit and know how much everybody respected him and what a great fireman he was.
Yeah,
and she's a great person. She's a very strong person, and I'm glad I was able to meet her, this year.
Yeah. Never met her, but I love that kid. I don't know what it is.
We got her. She lives right close to me. I got a text. Yeah. Maybe I know she's married.
Yep.
Tilly, let's get together. Come on,
come on, do it.
We got to.
All right, guys. So I don't know. We got on Monday, Ruffy. We'll see. But just a little. I'm going to throw this out there. We are working on a season-ending show for the end of the year. It's going to be called the Salties Award Show. We're going to give out awards. Yes, I've been working on it. Lots of hours. It's going to be very funny. Very much like the game show, but a little. Very much like the game show.
Match game?
Yeah, but more of an awards show, guys.
More of an award thing.
Less of a game. Yeah. But lots of fun little categories.
Yep. All right. So, Pete, do what you do, brother. Do it.
Well, you guys know the deal. Check us out on iTunes, Podcast, Spotify, or wherever fine audio podcasts are found. That's right. You can listen to us if you're on your way to work or in the gym or whatever. Tune in. And guys, usually about 10, 15 minutes after a show, you can find us wherever you find your podcast. So there you go. That's how that works. But if you are here on youtube.com/Gettin Salty Experience, guys, hit the like, subscribe, and share button. Come on, man. Wait, where is it? There.
Come on, man.
Do it again.
Man. Come on, man.
And then
Anyway,
anyway, hit that like, subscribe, and share because you guys are our number one sponsors and you are the bullhorn for the show. The bigger this show gets, the more we can do. We only have so much limited time, but if it becomes our full-time job, I expect to be putting out 5 segments a week. So let's get to that point.
Come on, do it.
I'm dying to get there. If you're on Instagram, check us out at Salty Dog Inc. Cool fire photos. You will see Superman fanning tomorrow on there. Okay, I guarantee you. I sent it to Lou already. All right, guys. Getting Salty Apparel. That's one of the ways we pay the bills around here. GettingSaltyApparel.com, where you will find the coolest firefighter apparel and accessories. Also, guys, the super chat. Thank you guys again. The super chat.
Johnny C, Loot, all you guys. Thank you very much.
Give it a loot. Give it a loot. Give it a loot.
That is super helpful to us, especially me. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you very, very much, guys. Getting Salty Fans page on Facebook. It's out of control. Where, of course, the Salty Backstreet Boys made an appearance this past week in multitudes.
Those sons of bitches.
Who knows what else is going to happen on there? Go check us out. Go check that page out there. Great community. Guys, if you have a question for the show, gettingsaltyexperience@gmail.com. Also, for the Cup of Joe and Some Fuego, which will probably make its triumphant return next week, we will be, needing your helmet cams, your footage, your fire photos, your rig photos, your hot old ladies. Send us your pictures of your hot old ladies, because we're not having a contest, but we're putting them up there, and the hot old ladies apparently are digging it. Apparently hot. I mean, it's funny, right, guys? How hot old ladies like to see themselves on.
Listen,
they like to see us spin our heads off our shoulder.
This is me after a. Yeah.
Look at Mike's face.
So you want to see us at Coop? Yeah, listen, we're not
like
that
this.
serious.
What the hell are you guys talking about?
And here I am. Mike's over there. Mike's over there like this. And I'm over here. And I'm over here like this. All right.
I gotta say, dude, going through all the footage of the pair of shows, you forget some of the stuff. I'm like, I can't believe we just said that. I'm like, there's something wrong with all three of us, brother.
Yeah, we got problems. It's all right. It's all right. Listen, look, like Howard Stern had a show. Can you imagine?
Yeah,
okay, Coops Podcast at gmail.com, KUBES podcast at gmail.com for all that stuff. And that, gentlemen, is all the news that is fit to print.
Mr. Pena, thank you so much. You're a gentleman. I appreciate you coming on.
Mike, don't sign off. We'll do it backstage, all right? After we sign
Sounds
off.
Good. Thanks, guys. And keep up the good work, man. This show is great. I think it's a great thing for the guys that are retired, especially to capture some of this history. But, all for the fire service themselves. It's a great thing you do.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, my peeps. You know what I always say? Courage is colorblind.
All right, everybody. Mike, thanks again. Appreciate it. We'll see you at the big one, everyone.
All right, everybody. Cheers and stay low and go. Boom.